Hello and good morning to you. Hope you're all keeping well. You're watching Sewing Street and I'm Debbie Shaw with you for the next 3 hours. So in the first hour we're going to be looking at fabrics and books. In the second hour we have sewing room surgery. We've got so many questions I don't think we'll have time to answer everybody, but we'll do our best. And then in the third hour we're going to be stitching with the 780 Plus sewing machine. So we've got a really varied, packed 3 hours for you this Monday morning. As usual, first thing on at 8 o'clock in the morning when we go live, we bring you a special offer, early bird, which we're calling it. And this time we've got a magnetic pincushion. I know it looks like it belongs in the centre of your table, doesn't it? So you've got this gorgeous kind of hint of rose gold tray, and in the bottom there is a magnet. I do like a magnetic pincushion. I keep one myself in my sewing box just behind me, because it just means that you don't have to worry about spiking and stabbing. The pins almost leap into it. But what I love most of all is picking pins up. Just look. Oh, missed one. There we go. So if you do drop your pins, they even stick to the bottom. If you do drop your pins on the floor, on the table, it's just a really easy cleanup. You know, sometimes when you can't even see the pin. I think I said yesterday I have a laminated floor in my sewing room so I can sweep things up and keep it tidy. And it's easier than the carpet. But even then, things go underneath the table, they go underneath the tower from a PC. And with a magnetic pincushion, I can just feel my way around there without having to do this with my hands and wrist spiking them on that needle that I just can't find. I do a lot of hand sewing in front of the TV as well, so I'll be on the sofa. And you know what it's like, if you're anything like me, I'll put something down and then it disappears and I don't even move. It happens here all the time, scissors particularly. But at least if I put my needle down somewhere and I can't see it, I know that with my magnet, I can just go around and it'll find it even when I can't see it. So it keeps you nice and organised. What I do like as well, I'm not going to show you my magnetic pincushion because it is a branded name and I'm going to diss it now, because I have one magnet that goes across the centre of it. So all of the pins and the needles all lie in the same direction. So I love it, I use it all the time, but I do have to push them out of the way to try and find the safety pin that I need or the needle that I need. Whereas the magnet on here kind of disperses all of the pins in a circle so I can see what I've got. So again, let me just fill that up for you and show you how it goes. It's not too strong a magnet either, you know, you're not going to be attracting saucepans from the kitchen when you're using it. But again, you can just pop them in there. No particular manner, doesn't matter which way around you put them. Pins, needles, safety pins. You could even keep magnetic clips and things like that in here as well. And you can see where they are. Just keeps you nice and organised. Everything in its place. And again, when you drop something, I don't know about you, but particularly on hard floors, and again, I've got my laminate, trying to pick a pin up can be quite difficult sometimes. With a steel pin or a needle, you can kind of press one end down and the other one lifts up, but it can be a bit of a nightmare. But with your magnetic pincushion, look at that. Now, it's only £6.99. I don't think you can ever have too many. And of course, pincushions aren't just for sewers. There's going to be reason for use for needles, pins and safety pins in everybody's household at some point. So it's a nice place to keep everything, keep it organised. But what a great gift idea as well. You can never have too many pincushions. So it's only £6.99. So you're saving £2 off the usual price. Yesterday's early bird sold out in about 10 minutes. So just to let you know, these early birds at reduced prices can be very, very popular. Now, £6.99 plus £3.95 P&P. That's a lot of P&P for a low price point product, isn't it? But the thing is, if you come back and order anything else throughout the day, we won't add any extra postage to your order. So if you wanted to come back later on in this hour and maybe order a piece of fabric or a book or a kit, that will be free postage. If you come back any time throughout the day and order from the website, that again is going to be free postage. Oh, talking of the website, you can order that way, but you'll need to put the code into the website to find your early bird at the moment. So if you go to sewingstreet.com, it'll take you to our homepage on the Jewellery Maker website. You'll see a video there, and then there'll be a search bar. So if you put the code number into the search bar at the top, then it will come up with your early bird special magnet pin dish, 10 centimetre rose gold, save £2, £6.99. Add to basket, yes please. I think you get those 3 pins in it as well, don't you? 3 whole pins you're getting in there with flower heads and all. But again, lovely little gift idea, but really, really useful to have in your sewing room. I can't recommend magnetic pincushions enough. So that's just £6.99 with a saving of £3. Take advantage while we've got these low prices. You can order on the phone lines as well, which is 0800 001 4433. Details down there at the bottom of your screen. And you can come through and be part of the show on Facebook if you wish as well. So if you go to the Sewing Street TV Facebook page and go to Visitor Pages, you can come and leave me a message, you can ask a question, you can let us know what you're up to today, you can show some pictures, so it'd be lovely to have you as part of the show this morning. Right, we've got lovely fabrics to show you. We've got some of my fabrics, my favourite fabrics, and we've got some bag kits as well. Have a look on the website if you wanted to get ahead of the game, if you can't wait for me. So we have a bundle of cotton canvases. These fabrics are gorgeous. We've sold out of so many individual options, bundle options. We keep bringing them back in stock again. They're a really nice quality canvas, the kind of canvas that I love to make bags with, but the kind of canvas that I'd love to make cushion covers with as well. Or you could even make a lightweight summer coat. If you have one of the patterns from So Different, one of Laura's block dress patterns, this would be very nice. Or she does a really nice unlined coat for the summer as well. So there's 2.5 metres here in total. Each one of these pieces is ½ metre wide, so obviously do sums, for £19.49. The colour combination I think is gorgeous. I did make a satchel out of some of those. And I just think that the colours make it look really stylish, don't they? So that's my satchels book. I don't know if I've got any of those left, but it's the fabrics that I think really make that one. So that's a combination of the light grey and the dark grey and the Ecru, which you're getting all in here. And if I just open one up as well, shall I show you how wide they are? Because you're getting a lot of fabric here. 140 centimetres wide. So a really good width of fabric. You could easily make 2 cushion covers from one of those. Maybe if you use a different one on the back. Or patchwork would look lovely on homewares. I wouldn't make a quilt out of it, it's a little bit heavy. But any kind of homewares, seat covers, little cushions for the garden furniture. So it's supposed to be getting nice again this week, isn't it? I don't know about this morning. Didn't pay much attention. It wasn't raining anyway, that's the main thing. Although garden was very, very grateful last week. So that's £19.49. That is your neutrals bundle. You're getting all of those. So that's 2.5 metres in total. I'm going to show you some new fabrics as well, which you may recognise, but not from here. This is our koi carp fabric. I'm going to make a drawstring bag out of one of these. So there you go, that's 112 centimetres wide. It's a Rose and Hubble poplin, so it's a nice dressmaking weight of fabric. So this is the black option, this is one that I'm going to use. I just love the way that the koi really stand out. The oranges and the golds and the, oh we've got, is that cherry blossom? So really lovely, bright, fun, oriental fabric. They really pop. This is only £4.99, and although I'm saying poplin, dressmaking, you could quilt with this, you could do a little bit of patchwork with it, you could put a stabiliser behind it and make a bag out of it. I'm not going to use stabiliser with mine this time, but if you wanted to make something that's a bit more substantial, then easily put interfacing or stabiliser or wadding on the back of there. These are by the ½ metre. So unless you're making a boob tube, you may need to order more than the ½ metre, and it does come in one piece. So I tell you what would look very nice, would maybe be a shirt. And maybe a shirt in the blue would be very nice. And so did one of the contestants on the sewing bee, apparently. You may have recognised this fabric from said sewing bee. I don't think they bought it from us, you know, to be honest. But I hope they got a good deal on it. But it is a really nice dressmaking weight of fabric. So a shirt I think would be so much fun, or a blouse. That was Liz on the sewing bee made that up, so you may have seen it. Maybe you want to do the same, make the same kind of outfit. So again, it's only £4.99. It would make a fun skirt, wouldn't it? I'm thinking elasticated waist and gathers and big pockets and Real 1950s style, I think, would be really nice. Okay. And then finally, we've got the same print, but with the white background. That's nice and summery, isn't it? Really fresh with the white on the ground colour. So, or you could use this as a trim, couldn't you? So maybe make the shirt out of the blue and then have the collars and the pockets and the cuffs made out of the white. See, no matter what you do on Sewing Bee, we've got better ideas. And we're probably more modest. Again, there's only £4.99 for the ½ metre. Buy more than one and they will come off the roll in one piece. So there we go with those. Oh, you noticed the bag already. That's the Cope and Plum bag. There was a demonstration from this from Cara last week. So that'll be on YouTube. She'll take you through all of the details and instructions. But basically, it's a quilt as you go. So the pattern is already printed onto the wadding. And you put your fabric on and stitch over the top, basically. It's really easy. And this is using 2.5 inch strips, which is included in the kit as well. So there's your print. They're all numbered. So it is literally like painting by numbers with fabric. And you have your handle there as well, which you covered that because it's not so pretty. And then the fabrics that we're including there's far too much. You've got 16 strips measuring 54 inches by 2.5 inches wide, so that's half of what you're getting. And there is a lining fabric as well. This is lovely fabric. That'll make a really nice lining. So there's nothing else that you need to buy. You've got your lining, you have your wadding, you've got your outer fabric. You don't have to use these strips for that if you wanted to use these for another project and use, I don't know, your barley pop strips or jelly rolls or anything else. And all of your instructions, of course, included in there as well. But if you haven't done anything like that before, it's so easy. And because you're only using strips, there's not a lot of measuring to go on there. But if you haven't done anything like this before, do take a look on our YouTube channel on Sewing Street and type in Alexandra tote bag and you should find it there. So everything that you need for the bag and extra for £39.99. We've got a couple of colour options for you though. So this one is actually the bag that's behind me here. Very on trend colours, this one. It's that mustard colour that everybody loves. So we sell out of that colour so often. We've sold out of the faux leather in it and everything. So again, you've got the same deal. So you've got your 16 strips. Those are all different as well, which is quite nice. This time you have the yellow for the lining. And you've got a gorgeous teal. So yellows and teals on a white background. And of course you've got your instructions and your printed wadding and your strapping there as well. It was actually on the 28th of April if you wanted to take a look on our YouTube channel, and you can see a full demonstration on how to make one of those. And that's only £39.99 again. If you've already got one, maybe you've already made yours up, let's have a look at the pictures. Let's have a look at what you've been making. I'd love to see those. Okay, now if you do want to send your pictures, I don't know why I've jumped off there, go to our Sewing Street Facebook page, Sewing Street TV, and to visitor posts. And again, that's where you're going to be if you have any questions, any comments. Nice to hear from you. One of my favourite, I love the canvases and I love the faux leathers, and I think out of all of the fabrics that we have on the channel, these are my two favourites. The faux leathers, or PU, isn't PU an ugly name? I know it is PU, but faux leather sounds better to me. It's just the most delightful fabric to work with. I'm not a fan of leather, personally, but this is so much easier to sew as well, and it's washable and it's ironable. Now don't iron it from the top because you melt it, because it is a form of plastic, but you can iron from the back. Now with the black, can you see the grain on that? So it does have a very leather look quality, but it's incredibly soft. Now a lot of PUs are plasticky, and particularly with reds and blacks, if it's shiny, I think it looks cheap. But this doesn't. It has a really soft sheen, but it has an expensive look. It's not shiny at all. And it's just such a pleasure to work with it. You can see how soft that is. And the reason being, you've got such a fine coating of PU on the one side, which has a little bit of give in it itself, but it's put onto a knitted backing. So you've actually got a stretch in it, which means that it's going to be great for making clothes. So making skirts, making trousers, making jackets. I've got a few jackets made out of PU. And I just think that they look really, really stylish. You don't need a special needle to sew it. So universal needle is going to be fine. You don't need a leather needle for this. If you're sewing thick fabrics, then maybe a denim needle would be okay. You don't need a special thread. You may need a walking foot or a non-slip foot on your sewing machine if you're top stitching. If you're just sewing seams together from that side, then that's going to go under your machine absolutely fine. This is rather wide as well. It's I think this is 150 wide. That feels like 150. So you've got a dressmaking width with this. 30-degree wash or a cool wash would be preferable. The colour isn't going to run, and if you keep it on a cooler wash, then it's not going to shrink or buckle or anything like that. And you can iron it on the butt. No need to pre-wash with this. It's not going to shrink. It's not going to colour run. And in fact, normally there's no need to wash. If you're wearing it, you may want to wash because, of course, you've got an absorbent backing to it. That's a viscose backing, so it's natural, but it's not a breathable fabric, so you may want to wash it. If you're making things like homewares, cushion covers would look amazing in this, and you can hand sew. I've smocked. I should have brought one in. Should I keep saying that? I've actually smocked this fabric before now, and it looks lovely and it's easy to do. You may need a thimble. When you get it home, you can iron it. Oh, I was going to say you can spot clean it, so not necessarily all the time to go in the washing machine, so just give it a wipe clean. And it will be creased up when you get it home, so you can give it a good old blast of steam from the back. When you look at it closely, it's got a very tatty selvage. I have had people question that before, saying I think there's a fault running through it. That's what the selvage looks like. Sometimes you'll actually see some of the coating lifting up. But that's it. That is chopped off anyway, like you would do on any selvage on any piece of fabric. So it's not the prettiest of thing. Not one of those that I'd save to use on a project, but just to let you know. So you've got huge sheets of this. And again, it's by the ½ metre. Makes lovely bags. I've got, that's the black one. And although it's got a stretch, you don't get a bouncy handle. I haven't put any interfacing on the back of that one. If you do want to use fusible fleeces and the likes, fuse them from the fleece side, not from the fabric side, because again, we don't want an iron to touch that. So that's the black. The dark brown is really classy. And actually, if you go for a couple, it looks really nice together with the light brown or the tan. Dark brown and red. Black and red looks really good, but I think dark brown and red has a little bit more style, a little bit more classy. But this is a really rich, deep. If it were chocolate, it would be Belgian, wouldn't it? It'd be the richest, darkest chocolate. And again, just look at the softness of this. That is a really good price if you shop around. It's £6.99. And remember, it's a really wide fabric. You're getting an awful lot there. So that's the dark brown. And then we have the navy and red works really well together. Calling this indigo. So it's a really deep, inky blue colour. And again, it does have a slight vein to it. It's not as noticeable on this one as it is on the black. But just, you can imagine how comfortable that's going to be to wear if you're making clothing out of it. But it is a really nice fabric to make bags with. And again, that's £6.99. And then the red. A classic colour of red. Not a cheap, shiny red. It's an expensive looking red. And again, it's just £6.99. I haven't got it with me, have I? I've made bags out of the red before now. I've even used this because it's so lovely to sew with. You can make piping. So normally with a laminated fabric, you wouldn't be able to bend it like that. But this will just fold around your piping cord really well, and you can sew straight up to the cord. It's a really lovely fabric to work with. If you do get holes in it, so we don't recommend that you pin, although it will take a pin. You know, it's not going to mark it too much. It's not too difficult to get a pin in there, but it may leave a hole. So if you get a little indentation like that, then just give it a blast of steam from the back and you'll find that the hole closes over. So it's not the end of the world. But if you've got your fabric clips, or if you have a look on our website for fabric clips, then that's going to be the best way of holding those together. I'll tell you what I like to do as well. This is the taupe. If I'm making straps like I did on the bag there, normally I'd cut my 4-inch strip of fabric, fold each piece to the centre and then fold in half again. And it gets quite bouncy. So with the cotton fabric or the canvas fabric, I'd give it a spray and maybe some best press and really crease it, but of course you can't from this side. So I will use a 505 basting spray. Make sure you don't get it on the outside because it can stain. And then fold it over, and it actually gives you a really nice crease and holds it in place. Or if you've got a glue stick, we've got those coming up in the next hour, then that would work as well. So that could be instead of clipping or pinning or anything, just a bit of a tip for you there. So that is the taupe. That's a very posh colour, I think. I think that's very upmarket. I do have a jacket in that colour. And I think I look posh, so. So those are all of your colour choices. And they're each at £6.99. Again, I'd love to see what you're making with it. There are colours that we've sold out, so we're waiting for the ochre to come back again. But you've got a lot of choice there, but I'd love to see what you've made from those already. We do have ochre in the canvas. It is a nice colour though, isn't it? And I think with the black, didn't fold that very pretty. Let's put that selvage out of the way. But those two colours together. Oh, I love those. They go so well. But that's your ochre canvas. And again, you've got 1/2 metre in length. And it's a really good weight. You're going to be so impressed with this when you get it home. You'll be ordering more. So for bag making, for homewares, you could make curtains. I mean, a nice weight for winter curtains, actually. I know we're coming into summer, but it is a really good weight. So, but a canvas, I imagine canvas being like something that you paint on and put in a frame, something really heavy and stiff. And this isn't. You can see how that drapes. It's lovely. So it's more of I would say, a linen look kind of fabric. It's a linen kind of weight, but it is 100% cotton. But it's a gorgeous colour. I'm not surprised that one sells out so often. £3.99 for all of this. There's a lot of fabric there. And again, it's by the 1/2 metre. So order more than one. All comes joined up. That would make a nice jacket, actually. Wear a lot of those kind of colours. I think they suit most people. So that's the ochre. We also have sky blue. This is a pretty colour, isn't it? I can make a jacket to go with my frock. £3.99 again, your price for that. Oh, come on, you pay more than that for cotton. And it's a really lovely quality of fabric. I know it's quite daunting, I think, particularly if you're new to us and you think, oh, well, I don't know what it's like, and you know what these salespeople are like on the telly. They'll tell you everything's wonderful. Actually, I don't. I don't. But I have bought this fabric myself. And you'll be thinking, well, I'll get it home. It's only £3.99. You get what you pay for, so it's just going to be cheap and nasty. And I shan't even bother. I'm used to spending a lot more than £8 a metre for fabric. Just give it a go. Test us out just once for the very first time, and just see what you think. And if you're really, really disappointed, send it back. And if you're really disappointed, go watch another channel and buy some fabric from them. But you won't be with this. It's beautiful, beautiful quality. It's not scratchy. It does drape, as you can see. It's not see-through. It's not what you expect for £3.99, honestly. Get so excited about this fabrics. This actually goes really well with the teal. I know I've said before, I don't normally buy one fabric on its own, because there's very few projects where I'll actually use just one fabric. If I'm making a bag, I might want a pocket or a lining. And if I'm making a jacket, that's certainly going to have a lining. I might have contrast buttons on it. So I like to pair things up. So I know that I've always got something that matches the fabric that I've just bought. Because particularly with less common colours like this one, it's difficult to match, isn't it, when you want something to go with it. You might have a lot of pinks. It's, well, that's not going to go at all, is it? You may have turquoises. Oh, no. So it's quite nice to see the tone of a fabric and the same fabric that matches. So you know that you've got something that, well, that goes. And that's a really good match. Oh, I've impressed myself there. And actually, so does that one. See, shopping in my mind now, virtual shopping. But the teal again is a really beautiful colour. Right, so there's those. So we do have more on the website if you have a look there. On sewingstreet.com you'll see all of these individually. We have the black on its own. So just really useful. Look at the mess in here, I know. And the black, if you were to go with another colour, I think maybe the Ecru or a white or a pale grey. Well, black goes with anything, doesn't it, apart from navy, or bottle green, but we haven't got those anyway. £3.99 again for your half metre there. If you'd like to order, phone number down here, 800 001 4433, or you can go to sewingstreet.com. Oh no, that's Facebook, isn't it? You can go to sewingstreet.com, it's under here, look, and take a look at all of the fabrics that we have available for you there. We also have a charcoal, so that's the darker grey. See, those two together look really dull, don't they? I would not go for the black and the charcoal, but I'd go for the black and the charcoal with the white in the middle, and then all of a sudden it becomes very stylish. It just breaks it up. But again, charcoal, it's a nice colour, charcoal as well. It's got a very warm kind of colour. Warm grey, I'd say, with that one. Again, at £3.99. Then we have the cream. Now, the cream's a seeded canvas. So just like with the Osnabrück that we had on the show yesterday, you can see the little cracked seed pods in there as well. It's a completely different fabric to the Osnabrück, and it is not a calico. It's a much better quality than any kind of calico. I can show you that because I've got calico here. So this is stiff. This is a toile, so that's the kind of fabric I use for toiles because it's really cheap. To be honest, it was £2.99, so it's not much behind the price that you've got there. And it creases, and it is a devil to try and get those creases out. We don't sell this on Sewing Street, okay? This is some cheap stuff that I bought, and it's perfect for making toiles. Don't waste this fabric. You can see straight away how the difference in the drape. So you may look at your screens and think it's calico, that's why it's so cheap. But when you look at the difference, this is not calico. That's calico. This has a weight, it has a drape, it has a smoothness. So it's still got that natural organic colour. And I love these kind of things. So I like contradictions of textures as well. I would quite happily mix that canvas with the faux leather. Completely different fabrics and weights of fabric, but it really does work. I would easily mix a canvas with a cotton, and that works really well. If you need them to be the same weight, you can always put some stabiliser. We'll have a chat about stabilisers actually in the next hour. We can always put some stabiliser on the back of the lighter weight of fabric so it balances with the heavier weights of fabric. But I like that. It's like the leather and lace kind of thing. Two completely different fabrics, but it kind of goes well together, doesn't it? I'd maybe chuck something else in there as well. So have a bit of faux leather and cotton and the canvas. Okay. And then we have the Ecru, which is a kind of off-white, useful colour. I wouldn't necessarily make a. If I was making a bag, I would put a base on it, maybe in the taupe, or even in the black. If I want a black and white bag, a monochrome bag, because if you're making a bag, it's going to go on the floor at some point, isn't it? So it'll get dirty. So I would like a nice summer bag or a beach bag. But I'd maybe just cover up the base of it, personally, unless you're very careful with your bags and you always hang them on the back of a chair. a friend of, I don't spend a lot of money on bags. I make most of my bags, and I I don't spend a lot. I've got a friend who spends a heck of a lot of money on handbags and always insists if she goes out for dinner that there is a chair for the Louis. I have to have a chair for the Louis, darling. It's got to have a chair for the Louis. Just to keep it off the floor. So let's have a look at some more colours. This is the coral. Oh, now we're talking summertime. This is a lovely colour for summer, isn't it? And it's a very flattering colour, particularly on more mature skins, apparently. Kind of colour of lipstick that they say that you should be changing to when you're a lady of a certain age. Of course, I'm not there yet. No. Oh, that goes well together. Oh, I like that. That's perfect. Wow, okay. We'll have a look at those later. I'm literally just playing, and that one. That goes so well, doesn't it? But you see how useful these are to have, even if, oh, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. That goes. Is that, in fact, these all would do. Maybe I'll go for the coral instead of a, oh, was it red? I was going to use a red, wasn't I? Oh, now look. So which one goes best? Shall I do coral and the coral and the koi, coral and koi, coral and koi or red and koi? What do you think? Because they're both in there, aren't they? Oh, I'm going to go red, and no, yeah, red and koi. That's for later. So that's your coral canvas. Again, by the ½ metre, so you can order some larger pieces. This was once upon a time in a bundle with fuchsia. That's such a pretty colour. I'm not going to mix and match with different fabrics. We'll be here all day. So ½ metre in length for £3.99 again. And then we have the lavender. Isn't that a lovely colour? I just think it's really classy. That I would definitely be using for bag making. Really pretty. And it's soft. It's not like a, you know, a really bright purple, a 1960s purple. It's just a really kind of grown-up, elegant lavender colour. It's gorgeous. Again, at £3.99. And then the red that I just showed you, we have that by the ½ metre as well. So all 100% cotton. As far as pre-washing is concerned, unless I'm dressmaking, I tend not to. If it's, you wouldn't quilt with this, it's too heavy, but for quilting purposes, it depends what kind of look you like. Nowadays, most fabrics don't need pre-washing. They've already gone through that process before you get them home. So I wouldn't, and certainly with bag making, I wouldn't pre-wash. If it's anything that's not going to go in the washing machine, I wouldn't pre-wash. Dressmaking is a little bit different because you're going to have to wear it. It's really time consuming and it's going to have to fit. So it would be a nightmare to spend days making something and then shrink it before you even get to wear it. But I wouldn't with any of those actually. Right, I might have some ideas for you. What are you going to make with that canvas? Well, how about a backpack? This is my backpack book. This is one of my most recent books. It came out last year. And if you haven't seen them before, you're getting 15 projects, but one pattern. And the one pattern will make all of those 15 projects. So this is it. This is the special thing about the books. So this is number 4 in the series of Builder bags. But the idea is that you plonk this on top of your fabric and draw around the shape. So you don't need any pins, you don't cut the patterns out, and everything that you need for 15 bags is all on here. Now there's some rather funny shapes on there, so I'll show you what they are. So that's actually a nose. They're not all bears, there's some quite grown-up bags in here as well, but I just thought we'd have a little bit of fun. So there's the nose and the outer eye and the middle eye, and then, oh, there's an ear, so it does say on all of the pieces, that's the ear. And then the face shape is the angled flap, which is here. And then there's a square flap here, which is on the fold there. And then the whole of the outside of the bag is the round backpack. So that's the template that goes around here. And even things like the gussets, it says place on fold. Those are the bits that go down the side there. So don't worry about remembering all of that, because this is a folder as well. So your template goes inside the back. Your actual book will come out if you want it to, just slips in the back. So everyone, I'll show you that in a second, every one of the bags has the part of the pattern highlighted that you need to cut. And then it'll tell you in writing as well, so you can't go wrong with your pieces. So at the beginning of the book, and it's the same for all of the, oh, that's signed. Oh, that's worth an extra £1 or £2. Every one of the books will take you through understanding the template, how that works to start with, because it is a bit different. Different types of materials and tools that you're going to need. Hardware, techniques like adding piping. These are all relevant to projects in the book. So it's not a big dictionary of terms or anything like that. Everything that you need, all the materials that are spoken about, are all things that are used in the book. And then there's 15 projects, and they are very different. So there's drawstring backpacks, there's zippered ones, there's convertible backpacks, there's backpacks that are converted into totes. You do have some, so very grown-up ones, and something for the kids as well. So I'll just have a quick flip through so you get an idea of the different kind of looks. Some of them are really, really simple. I'm going to make a really quick one today because these type of things are quite time-consuming to make. With the bear one, behind me there's the panda, which is the same pattern, but I just used black and white, and I added the white bits around the eyes to give it a panda-eyed look. There is a video for that on YouTube, all the way through, so how to put the zip in and the lining and everything like that. So if you have a look on my YouTube channel, if you're confused by anything, just take a look on there and your instructions are there. So the simple drawstring bag is the one that I'm going to make, because that's going to be quite quick. So if you're a beginner sewer, that one would be a good place to start. It doesn't take up very much fabric, and there's no zips or gussets or anything like that, so that's a really quick one. But that'll make a nice bag for school, for ballet, or I don't know, keep your bathroom bits and bobs on the back of the door. There's different techniques in here as well, adding piping. The zip pockets, you can add to any of them. So if I want a zip pocket in that bag, for instance, I haven't included it here because it's previous, and that would take up more pages, and I'd rather fill the pages with projects and instructions than repeating myself. So that's that. Oh, and then a little extra. You can even use those big templates, or that big template, to make a small purse like that. So that's actually number 16. You've got 16 projects in there altogether. So that's backpacks. I did put that in the page that I wanted. I write so many of these things, I can't always remember the instructions. We also have, anybody there? Oh, the occasion bags. This is the first one I wrote in this series, and there is a bit of a difference because we've kind of moved on technologically with the templates. So the first templates have got 2 patterns in there. Out you come. So I'm just open this up and show you. Well, it's in exactly the same way, but you have 2. So those are the first 2 templates. And if I show you with, let's have a look at the faux leather bag. So you can see the shape of the flap is that, and that's place on fold. That's the shape of the outside of the bag. And then the gusset at the side, you've got that which is the triangle bit, and that's half the base. So between the 2 of them, that's the kind of bag that you're going to be able to make. Some of them are flatter. There are some zip ones in there, makeup bags and things like that. But after bringing you 2 books with these type of templates, we managed to develop a folding template. And that took ages to do, because it'll fold open and shut and open and shut and open and shut without cracking. So that's why it took another year to get 2 more books out. But just working the same way. So these were a little bit more of an evening kind of look. So again, you've got all of your highlighted patterns. Oh, that's your extra one, little briefcase type thing. But more evening kind of designs. All the step-by-step instructions, all the tools and materials and fabrics and techniques that you're going to need to create these ones. That was quite a nice one, if I say so myself. So it's actually got 3 pockets, all joined together, but you can't see the join. So 2-dimensional bags, 3-dimensional bags, clutch bags. That bag's hanging up at the back. Makeup bags, cosmetic bags. You use those as pencil cases and pouches. So 15 styles for £11.99. Now have a word about these prices. These recommended retail price is £15.99. The newer ones, so the backpacks and the satchels, £17.99. I don't know how you do it. This one's got 2 templates as before. And I'll just give you a quick flick through so you can see. Oh, that's your extra one for that one. Number 16 is how to make a storage box, but it's still using the template. And we've got lots of different styles, so you can add zips. You can make a drawstring bag, beach bags. That's a fold-away bag. So that makes a great little shopping bag. A makeup bag to go with your bag, maybe. So little purses, big purses, I'll show you how to put a zip panel into the top here. You could use that technique for other bags that you're making as well. So even if you don't make the bags exactly as you see them here, there are techniques that you're going to learn that you can use in future bag making too. So there you go. So that is £11.99. We've had a message from Andrea who says, is the canvas fabric suitable for making trousers and crop trousers? Thank you. Yes, it is, Andrea. That would make a lovely pair of crop trousers. I don't think I'd make a top. A bit heavy for a top, but trousers definitely. And I don't think, even with the white, I don't think that's going to be see-through, or maybe a bit. Oh, light linen, isn't it? I just bought a pair of white linen trousers, actually. And if you wear something very dark underneath, you're going to see through it, but barely. Not like you'd expect. Yeah. Nude coloured underwear is going to be invisible. Don't wear white under white because you'll see it. I can say underwear, I just can't say knickers. Too early for knickers. Okay, should we make a bag? Let's make a backpack, as promised. Right, so it's that one I'm going to make. And I'm going to use black coys and red fabric. So I will need to, let's open this out. You know what I didn't get was my marking pens, but I think they're in the next hour, aren't they? If we have some chalk pens or erasable pens would be good, which I've probably got back here, haven't I? Oh, I've got a water one, that'll do. That'll be fine. So let's do the lining first of all. So you will need, and again it's highlighted on here. So it's the full size of the template. So that's that one, which is all the way around the outside and down here. And then I'll need the corner pieces, I'll need 4 of those. And then I'll need the end panel, but that's not going to be as an end panel, it's going to be a drawstring channel. So place on fold. If your fabric is very heavy, do this one at a time, because you may find with the outer fabric, when it curves around the bottom fabric, adds 1/8 of an inch or so. Now what I'm also going to do is use a bit of Grippy Spray, because I'm not pinning this down, but I want to hold it in place. That's coming up in the next hour. So that's going on here. And then draw here, and it's down this one. Oh, and straight across the bottom. Just move that up a little bit. There. And then we'll cut that out. Whoops. You could use your rotary cutter if you like, cutting through a lot of layers of fabric here. And then across the top there. Should have done that one at a time, maybe. That wasn't very straight there, so just cut along the lines. One at a time's a lot easier. Didn't cut that quite straight, I'm just going to trim that back. I'm also going to need 4 of these little corner pieces. So I'll use the bit that's left over at the top there. So we go round here and across there. And I'm just going to go 2 at a time through these. And then I'll need another pair of those. Like so. So I'd cut out all the pattern pieces. They're easy to identify, but if you're doing bag bases and zip sections and things like that, you may want to just write on them, and that could be a C for a corner in something that's going to be erasable. I'll cut out the top section in just a second because we're not going to have time to finish this. So that's my lining. My black fabric was going to be, see what I do? The outer fabric. So again, let's fold this in half. Wrong sides together, right sides together, so I can see the paler back of it. Like so. And again, I'm being a little bit wasteful here because I'm rushing. That grippy spray, by the way, will just carry on gripping and it won't transfer onto your fabric. So as here, all the way down the side. These are wipe clean templates as well, so don't worry about getting ink on them. You can clean them off again. And they're transparent, so you can fussy cut. So if I wanted my koi in a particular position, I've never said that before, then I can put, you know, if this is a bag flap I'm making and I wanted to have that fish right in the corner here, you can see through that, so you can fussy cut. Allow a bit for seam allowance as well, so don't cut right up to the edge of your design because you've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance inside here, so you'll lose a bit of it. Or you could do a smaller one on there, that would look quite nice there. So that's why they're see-through. And that's that. So that is basically how you're going to use the patterns. Let's sew those corner pieces together first of all. So I've got the little 550 for this one. This is a lovely little machine. 560, sorry. Which we'll be talking about in the next hour as well. Sewing surgery coming up next. So if you haven't seen it before, I've only done a couple. I'm answering questions, so I've been sent a whole load of questions over the last few weeks, which we put together. I don't think I'll have time to do everything because I've been inundated with questions. But if there's anything that pops up into your mind, send it through on Facebook, and I shall endeavour to answer them. So there's one. We do the second one. Then we'll have, we've got Pincushions. Nope. Trim the corners of these If you have pinking shears, use pinking shears, because that's easier. Otherwise, I'm just going to trim back the seam allowance to the stitches. Not too close. And then, so if you're cutting into curves or you're cutting into corners, you cut down on the bulk of the fabric as you turn this the right side out. So if you're dressmaking, you would cut little snips into a curve like that. Thank you. But if you have pinking shears, that does the same job. So instead of cutting little V shapes, if you use pinking shears, that automatically cuts the V's into the fabric. So then when you turn it the right side out, you get a nice smooth line there. So that I would press, and again snip into that a little bit, turn it the right side out, and press. Just to let you know, the cream cotton canvas is sold out. Is it trousers? Should have made them, shouldn't I? I just saw a bargain online. I thought I'll buy myself some trousers. I'm going to use a little bit of 505 spray with this one. So, just on a bit of leftover. And you'll find this an easy way to stick them together. So at the moment, it's quite thick, as you can see, and I want to keep it nice and flat. So I'm going to put a bit of spray inside there and stick it together. 505 spray will wash out of your fabric, but that just makes it nice and flat. And the same with the other one. We've only got 5 minutes, so I'm not going to have time to really get anywhere near finishing it, but it'll give you an idea. So that's that. And then I'm going to spray these two again. That was rather a lot, Deborah. And that there. And these go in the bottom two corners of my bag, like so. And they don't do anything apart from give you a nice professional finish. And that goes on there. What you'll also need to do at this point is to put two little ribbons on the corner. So I'll show you here because now we're nearly out of time. So these go onto the bottom corners of your bag before you sew it together. So those are the two corner pieces I've just put on. I've actually used a satin stitch around that one, so that's up to you. This one I'm just going to top stitch. And then the ribbon here goes facing in here, so that when it's turned the right side out, it pops out like that. So then these two pieces will go right sides together. I'm going to cut the two strips that go in the top here from the red fabric, and those are folded in half and go facing inwards across the top of here. You can put that on the lining side as well. And then do the same with the lining, sew together and drop one inside the other. So the only thing that you need to do then when you turn it the right side out is to add the cord. So you'll need quite a length of this because there are two of them. So one goes in the ribbon at the side, around here, through that channel at the top and back out of the other side, back down, back through the ribbon, and a big knot. And not big enough that it's not going to pull through the ribbon. And then do exactly the same from the opposite way, go around the top, come back down again, and a big knot at the bottom. There are backpacks in there that look quite similar, that will have eyelets in the side, so a different way of doing it. But it's not all set in stone, you know, the bags are all adaptable. So if you've got an idea of to add anything, a piece of applique on the front of that would look lovely, or names or initials, or if you have an embroidery machine maybe, that would be a great way of personalising anything that you're making like that, and it's a very easy way of doing it. So I hope that's explained somewhat in a very quick kind of manner, but that is a very quick bag. I'll just give a reminder of the fabrics that I'm using. So it's the black koi, which is this one. So you've got little pink flowers. There's a lot you can mix with. You could use a gold or a yellow as a lining. Where's my ochre? So those kind of colours would pick up, maybe something a little bit warmer, proper yellow or gold would look better, I think. That's better, isn't it? Or we've got greys, there's pinks in there as well. There is coral and red in the fish. So there's a lot that you can mix and match with on those as well. That's £4.99 for half a metre. And your canvas is £1 less. Somebody up there can't do sums, can they? Somebody's calculator needs the batteries replacing in it, because this is £1 less at £3.99, and this is cotton canvas, so this is a heavier weight of fabric. That is, I'm not questioning anything. I'll just buy it before somebody just get the calculator working. So that's the red that I used at £3.99, 140 centimetre wide, and that is a beautiful fabric to work with. I've been really impressed with these canvases. Can I give you a reminder of our early bird? Making such a mess. So Vix is in tomorrow, isn't she? Is it Vix tomorrow or is it John? Whoever it is, tell him to bring the vacuum cleaner. Early bird is a magnetic pincushion. But it's a rather posh one because it's rose gold. Maybe you've already got the rose gold scissor sets that we do. That would be amazing. Very upmarket sewing room you're going to have. So the magnet is in the base here. It's magnetic all over the place, but it's a nice shape for a pincushion because you can actually see everything that's in there. Not like the one that I've got, but look, it's just... Look, you've peaked early now. Look, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to do that. No, but it's a great it's a great storage solution. It's not overtly, well, it's not too strong a magnet. I do have a really strong magnet in my sewing room, and I have to put it right out of the way because what I store on it actually is used blades from my rotary cutters. And it could be quite lethal because I have it on top of the mantel shelf, which is quite high. And as you approach it with the blade, it goes ding. I could throw them across the room like a discus and they'd all be attracted to this magnet. But it is a nightmare because you can't get the things off it. This isn't so strong, but it is strong enough to pick up pins off the floor as well as storing them. And it's only £6.99, so that's the early bird. That's a special offer for those of you who are up with me nice and bright and early at 8 o'clock this morning. Now after the break room, we've got sewing surgery, so I'm going to get my list of questions out and endeavour to answer anything that you come through to in the show as well. So I shall tidy up my mess here and see you again in a few minutes.
Would you like to take part in our weekly competition? If you do, then all you have to do is head to the Sewing Street fan page group on Facebook. Post your picture of your make. Myself, Debbie Shaw and John Cole Morgan love looking at all of your makes every week. We pick our favourite and announce the winner every Friday live on the show. Happy sewing and good luck.
Hello there, I'm Debbie Shaw, and I would love you to join me on the first Monday of every single month for Sewing Street Surgery. Now, this is a dedicated hour where I answer your questions, and that could be questions about techniques, it could be questions about tools, it could be questions about new products, or maybe something that you've seen that you just don't understand. There's a lot of questions about tensions on sewing machines, and there's a lot of questions about working with different weights of fabrics. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask me, the easiest way to bring a question over to us is to go to our Facebook page and post your question on there. I will collate all of those questions throughout the week. If we need any new products for you, or if we need any new demonstrations, those will all be worked on leading up to that first Monday of the month. So do join me, Debbie Shaw, on Sewing Street Surgery on the first Monday.
Shopping with us couldn't be easier. If you want to shop online, then you can head to our website, www.sewingstreet.com. It will redirect you to our sister channel Jewellery Makers landing page. Don't worry, you haven't gone to the wrong place. We're simply using their website temporarily while we're building our own web shop. Scroll down past the Watch Live part and you'll see all of the products that you will have seen on air on today's live show. You can also shop our catalogue by clicking a category, clicking a product to view closer and adding it to your basket. Once you're ready to check out, you will need to create an account, which is absolutely free to do so, but it will mean that you can check out on as many orders as you want throughout the day with still only paying one postage and packaging. If you'd prefer to speak to somebody in our UK-based customer service team, then you can do so via the free telephone line number 0800 001 4433. They will not only help you create an account, but will also help you with any of your online shopping. Would you like to take part in our weekly competition? If you do, then all you have to do is head to the Sewing Street fan page group on Facebook. Post your picture of your make. Myself, Debbie Shaw, and John Cole Morgan love looking at all of your makes every week. We pick our favourite and announce the winner every Friday live on the show. Happy sewing and good luck.
Hello again and welcome back to Dr. Deb's Sewing Surgery. In this hour I'm going to endeavour to answer some of the questions that we've had sent to our Facebook page over the last couple of weeks. We've got quite a few pages, so we should get through those. If you have any questions about anything sewing related, whether it's something on your machine that you don't understand, or a tool that you're not sure how to use, or which fabrics do I use for which project, come and let me know now on the Facebook page. The quickest way is going to be to come to the Facebook, the Sewing Street TV page, so not the fans page. And if you go to the visitor post and put your post there, that's the page that I've got open on my phone right now, so I'll get to see questions straight away. If you go to the fans page, I'm not there. And if you send a message, then it will eventually get through to me here, but it'll be going through a couple of people who can relay the message to me. So that's going to be the easiest way to get through. We've got some problem-solving products for you as well, and we've got some brand new things to show you as well. So hopefully it's going to be an enjoyable hour. So we're going to have a chat about tensions later on as well. We'll have a chat about needles. We're going to have a chat about threads. But what we're going to do first of all is have a chat about unpicking. We have a quick unpick that comes with our sewing machine. We sell quick unpicks because you're going to blunt them eventually, but we also have something brand new for you this morning, which is a stitch remover like no other. It's quick, it's efficient, it's fast, and it's fun. We hate unpicking stitches, do we not? You're going to want to unpick stitches when you get this home. So it works as, let me just take the safety little strip off there, so because it's charged when you get it home. You switch it on and you've got two little blades here. It's safe, it's not going to cut through your fingers, it's not like cutting with scissors, because the blades are on the inside of these grooves here. So they only cut when it's switched on and when it's going through the thread as well. So it's a very safe little thing. You do have your full instructions there as well. There's a cleaning brush because you're going to get lint build-up inside here at some point, and you've got your charger there as well, so you can charge that just, well, in the normal manner. It's a plug basically, but this is the way that it works. So you've got your seam there, look. It may, if you're starting unpicking right from the end of your fabric, it may be beneficial just to unpick a few stitches first of all, just to give it something to get hold of. So I'm going to do that, or if you've got your quick unpick already. But it's only a few stitches, so don't worry too much about that. And then you're going to put the end of your stitch remover just underneath the seam, switch it on, and it's almost like you're shaving away the stitches. So I just want to show you there is a seam there because that looked so easy. That is a proper denim seam with quite thick thread. Switch it on and it just glides underneath. So just follow the seam line. You will have a few fluffy bits to take away afterwards, but you're not cutting the fabric. As long as you're catching just the thread of the seam under here, you're not going to rip into your fabric. How many times have you unpicked, and I've done this as well, with an unpicker, maybe it's you're opening up a zip on the back of a cushion cover, and you can get the grip with your unpicker and you can kind of get into, yeah, this is going to go really quickly, and then it's, oh, and you've got a tiny little cut in your fabric, and that little cut's going to get bigger and bigger. It doesn't happen with this. If you catch it right on the very edge of fabric, it could cut it, but it also makes it ideal if you have embroidery stitches that you want to remove embroidery stitches on an embroidery machine or free motion are over and over and over and over on the same spot, and it's nigh on impossible with an unpicker to remove those. But with your so I'm just getting the next piece. With your stitch remover, that makes it a very easy job. Buttonholes. If you sew a buttonhole in the wrong place, or you run out of thread halfway through and you've got to start again, that's a very difficult stitch to remove. But your thread stitch remover, you can just kind of shave it away, so it makes it a lot easier. If you have applique pieces, this is just a piece of bias binding, the same kind of thing, that you want to remove, just put the stitch remover just behind those stitches again, and it's literally just, look, just shaving away the stitches, but without catching on the applique and without catching on the fabric. So those are all the stitches. Isn't that amazing? Now that's only £29.99, so a real problem solver for a lot of us, but one of those things that I love picking these bits out. Normally do that with tweezers. If you have got a big job that you need to unpick and it looks a little bit daunting, it's a little less so, isn't it, when you've got a tool like that to have a play with. Brand new for you today. Okay, shall we have a look at some of your questions? Oh, so that was unpicking. Battings and stabilisers. Now, I've brought my Sewing Room Secrets book, because this is, I will answer your questions. I'm not just saying, well, here's a book, let's get on with the next one. There is a whole section on battings and stabilisers in here, which kind of gives you an overview of what they are, because it can be very confusing as to what is out there. So I'm going to take you through some of the basics that I use, and then I'll show you what we have here. This is only the natural waddings, so there's no synthetics in here. Use synthetics sometimes, but I just want to give you an idea of what is actually available. So let's start from this side. We've got cottons, we've got cotton mixes, we've got wool mixes, we've got different weights of cottons. All of these are natural waddings. So cotton mixers, wool mixers, some are quite firm, some are very loose, but all very natural. Some of them that you'll see, like this one, are needle punched, and that means that they've literally been felted to make them a little bit more dense. Whatever you're buying, if you take a look at the packaging, or it should be the instructions on screen, on websites as well, if that's where you're buying them from, it will give you an overview of what the fibre content is in your wadding or your batting. Batting's an American term, wadding is a British term, it's the same thing, so we're going to call it wadding because we're British. So this is 100% cotton, but a quality wadding like Hobbs Heirloom will tell you the amount of shrinkage that you have, if there is a shrinkage, and it will also tell you how far apart you need to quilt if you're quilting. So I've got the loft on here as well, which is the depth. You've got a size, this is a crib size. You do have 20% polyester in this as well. And it says it needles wonderfully. But there is information on the back of here as well. I'm not going to go through all of this, but this cotton can be quilted as close as 1/4 inch and 3.5 inches apart. So if you're going to be doing something like a crosshatch quilt, then make sure that your lines aren't more than 3.5 inches apart, because that's when your batting or your wadding is going to be at its most stable. So those are important things to look at. Apart from that, it's what are you using it for? What are you making? How thick do you want it? How deep do you want that loft to be? And what's your personal preference? So we did have a question from Dawn saying what wadding was used in my tablet case. I actually used a fusible fleece on that one. So you've seen all naturals. We don't have this in stock at the moment. It will be back, I'm sure. But this is H640 Valiseline, which is a polyester which has an adhesive on one side. So I wouldn't use this in a quilt. It's polyester, it's not breathable. And I certainly wouldn't put it anywhere babies and children. It's too stiff. But I would use this in bag making, and I would use this behind anything like a cushion cover that I'm going to quilt into, just something that you're not going to put right next to your skin. So that's going to be back in stock soon, but that's a polyester. What wadding? You can, I'll show you that later on. We do have a polyester for you as well. So a polyester wadding I would use in something like a wall hanging. I'd use it on things like table runners if I didn't need a heat resistant. I'd use it on anything that I'm quilting that doesn't need to be, that's not going to be on the bed. But again, it's not just for quilting. If you wanted to use this to make a bag a little bit more substantial and luxurious, or if you're making a bag that you're going to quilt, then this is going to be a good one for you. And polyesters tend to be a lot more affordable than the wool and the wool mix ones as well. So that may be an option for you, but not a quilt that you're going to put on your bed. The wadding, now then, if you don't have the H640, you can make your wadding adhesive temporarily with sprays. I've had loads of questions about sprays. Still don't get what the 404s and the 505s and the Grippies and all that kind of thing are for. 505 is the one that I would use if I don't have my H640. Maybe I've got my cotton batting. That's all I've got. I'm going to use that to make a bag with. It says it's a crib size, but you don't have to make a crib quilt out of it. You can make what you like. Cut it down. So I could use the 505 spray on the back of my wadding and make it fusible so I can then sew through it. So if I haven't got fusible fleece, I've only got wadding, spray the back of it and it becomes fusible. That's only temporary. But this is also really useful for basting quilts. So if you are pinning with bent safety pins at the moment, or you're tacking by hand, try the 505 spray. It does disappear, it'll wash out, it's repositionable, it's not permanent, it's not going to gunk up the needle in your sewing machine, and you can peel your quilt top off and put it back again, and peel the lining away and put it back until it's absolutely flat, whether it's a large quilt or a small quilt. So this is invaluable. 505 is something that I use so often. Most projects, like you saw in the previous hour, if you were washing, even on smaller areas, 505 is somewhere that I would use. Great for applique as well. I get through an awful lot of this. We've got 404. Oh, here we go. 505, 404. What's the difference? 505 spray will wash away. Eventually, it will lose its tackiness. So it's not meant to stick something to something else permanently. 404 spray won't stick something permanently, but the sticky will remain on your fabric, or you can use this on paper permanently. So this is a great idea if you have, maybe you've got your quilted instructions, don't know where to put them, don't want to put pins in the wall. Let's just stick them up there. Oh, I don't want them there anymore. It's not going to ruin or peel away your wallpaper. It's permanent on the back of that sheet of paper, but it's not permanent on the walls. So if you're putting posters up, this should actually last for about 6 to 8 months. So if you're putting posters on children's walls, maybe in rented accommodation, you can't put nails in the walls, or you don't want to put the blue tacky stuff because that can leave grease marks, then just try that, and it'll take about 8 months before it drops off, and then you can simply respray. But you can also use 404 for holding patterns onto your fabrics. You can sew through it. It's acid free. It's not going to damage your fabric. It won't transfer from your pattern to your fabric, and it'll stay there. And this, if you have a long arm quilt machine and you want to really hold a pattern down while you're sewing over the top of it, that's what you're doing. That will hold the pattern while you're sewing through it. So it's a little bit stronger than the 505 and it lasts longer, but it has a completely different purpose. Now the Grippy Spray, there is a 202 as well. That's different again. That's for paper patterns when you're dressmaking and things like that. Grippy Spray is to put on the back of plastic templates. So this is the one that I sprayed my backpacks template with in the previous hour to make your rulers and your acrylic and your plastic templates non-slip. So don't use them with your Creative Grids rulers. They've already got grippy bits on them, but if you've got things like, I use Olfa rulers, they don't have grippy bits, you can spray onto them. It doesn't transfer onto your fabric, it doesn't attract dust or anything like that, it doesn't actually make them sticky, it just gives them purchase so that you can't move the templates when you're on your fabrics. So I hope that's explained what those are. Right, so who else have we got? Oh, we've had a message from Jill. Oh, was she on Facebook? Oh, a cutting mat has become bowed. Do you know, I have had mats become bowed, particularly with the big ones. If you store them upright, they're not made to be stored upright, they're made to be stored flat, and they will bow a little bit. Try soaking it in warm water in the bath. That's a great way of cleaning it as well, and then let it dry flat. It's not going to absorb the water and go spongy or anything like that, but the warmth may help it flatten it out. But to be honest, I think you might be ruined. I tried with one of mine when I bent it. We've got underfloor heating in our kitchen, and I laid it on the kitchen floor with the warmth from there, and even that didn't flatten it out. So try heat, not hot. Don't put an iron on it or anything, but warm water in the bath. Soak it for a while, lay it flat, and see what happens there. So hopefully that's going to work for you. Oh dear. Lynn says, do any of my books have a pattern for an across the body shoulder bag? Thanks for brightening up my day. Oh, thank you, Lynn. I can't remember that. I've got so many bag books. I think So Brilliant Bags will have one. If you, oh, no, we don't have it here, so I can say, if you have a look on Amazon and you can see, look inside. So have a look at So Brilliant Bags, and I think there's one in there. That's it for now. Okay. So wadding we've done, 404 we've ticked off. Sheila asked which way to cross-hatch when she's quilting. I start in the middle. So cross-hatching, if you want to, is just lines going that way or that way, any distance apart you like across your quilt. You'll find it easy no matter what kind of quilting you're doing, I think, to start in the middle and work your way out. So for the first couple of lines, I'd literally start right in the centre of the quilt and go one way, then another way, then that way, and then maybe all the way down, always in the same direction. If you sew down and then back up again, you may find that the fabric starts to twist. Very big quilts, again, I'd start the middle and go out just to keep everything nice and flat. Personally, that's what I'd do. Sue Williams recently found out she's going to be a grandmother. Congratulations, Sue! And what's best to make quilts with? Now, I'm not sure whether you meant which wadding or which fabric, but this is the wadding that I would suggest. It's crib size. I'm taking it out. So this is the cotton batting, and it's 45 inches by 60 inches. So you've actually got, it says cribs. I always imagine cribs as being like Moses baskets. We've only got 20 of these left, by the way, so if you wanted to buy some. That's the size, that's your 45 by 60 inches, so that's what it looks like. So you've got a really good size. So if it's a cot you're making this for, you could even double that up to make it nice and thick. But you've got plenty there. And again, depending on the thickness, 1 layer, 2 layers, it really doesn't matter. 3 layers, 4 layers for the winter time, whatever you wanted to. But when you see something has been designed as crib size, you know that it's the best type of thing to use for babies as well. So it's natural, it's breathable. There is 20% polyester in here as well. That's never going to go back in, is it? And a little bit of polyester is great in wadding because it doesn't affect the breathability or the absorbency of the cotton element, but it does stop it shrinking, twisting, helps it to keep its shape, which means that, which means it's great for something like that because it is washable. Well, who knew? Oh, go on in. So I was doing so well. So that's the one that I would use. Fabric-wise, natural. Don't use a polyester fabric or any polyester content in fabric for babies, or on bedding in general, because that will stop the breathability and absorbency. You want your kids to be warm but not sweaty, not hot. So natural fabrics again. Apart from that, doesn't matter. A quilting cotton, a poplin, anything you like really would be fine. Kathleen wants to know how to make bias binding. Okay, here we go. So you'll need well, the best way to do it is to take a rotary cutter ruler and mat. I'm just going to show you very quickly how to make bias binding. Because there are lots of different ways, but this is how I find it easier. So take your fabric. The bigger the mat, the better. But if you have a smaller mat, then you can fold your fabric. But basically we need, this is just some of the white cotton that you should find on the website. You will need a 45-degree angle. Should we go back to what bias binding is to start with? Let's go right back to the very beginning. Fabric that is cut on the bias is cut on a 45-degree angle. So you have your warp and your weft on woven fabric, and those are at that angle. A 45-degree angle turns the fabric so that it's cut like that, so it has give. So when it's cut on the grain like so, it'll have a little bit of give, but not very much. But when you turn it over, it's almost like you put a stretch into the fabric. So that's the fabric on the grain, and that's a woven cotton, so it shouldn't stretch. When I turn that over to a 45-degree, it has that little bit of give. It's like a scissor action. So that makes it a perfect binding for going around curves. If you're making binding to go around a square quilt, you don't have to cut it on the bias. It does take up an awful lot more fabric. It's worth it. And if you're making your own, then you can of course make it in coordinating fabric as well. We'll just do that. And then I'll show you how to join it together. So let's take the 45-degree line on my board, which is right across there, so make it a bit smaller. Line your fabric up so that it's square. We don't want that selvage on there, thank you very much. So let's chop that off. And there's the 45-degree line. So I'm not using the ruler at the moment, it's upside down. I'm using the mark on my mat. And then the width that I use most of all is inch wide. So for inch wide bias binding, I'll need to cut 2-inch wide strips of fabric, which is there. That's not quite lined up. Okay. So now I'm not using the measurements on the mat, I'm using the measurements on the ruler. Like so. And then to make it into binding, you could invest in a bias binder maker. We don't actually have any at the moment, but you're going to fold the two edged pieces to the centre and press. Now that will be a single fold bias binding. Although I've actually made 2 folds, that's called single fold. So if you are going to buy bias binding, that's a single fold, and the reason it's called a single fold is because when that goes around the edge of your quilt, there's one layer of fabric on the fold that goes around the edge. So most quilters, if it's a bed kind of quilt you're making, will just fold this in half. And that's called a double fold, although I've only folded it once, because now when this goes around the edge of my quilt, there are 2 layers of fabric here. So it's the preferred method of making quilts that are going to last a long time, because there's 2 layers of fabric, it's not going to wear as quick as one. If I'm using bias binding as a trim on a bag, then I will use a single fold bias binding. And that tends to be what you buy. So let's join these 2 pieces together, because you'll have to do this invariably with my little 560 sewing machine. Now the tempting thing is, when you're sewing this together, is to fold them over and just sew a diagonal line straight across the corner. And you'll find what happens when you turn it over, you'll have a step in your fabric like that. It doesn't quite work. So if you move that over a little bit, it does seem a little bit wasteful. You can pin and mark that if you like, and then we're going to sew from this corner down to that corner, and then chop the ends off. So that needs to be a right angle. So that goes there, and goes straight across one corner to the other. And then we can chop off the seam allowance, cut that square, cut that back, chop that off, and my edges match. I don't get the step in there. You can quite easily pattern match bias binding as well if you need to. While we're there, we had a question about Mitering Corners. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead a little bit there. Oh no, that was from Vincent. So I'll show you that quickly as well. So, and I'm still using my little 560. I'm going to use some bought bias binding because you won't see the white I've just made against this. I love mitered corners. I just think it gives a really nice, smart finish to your work. So this is actually is that an inch? That's 3/4 of an inch bias binding I'm using here. And when you're sewing it on, you're going to open it up, line up the edges of your fabric. If I'm going all the way around something like a placemat, I'll overlap the edges. So you'll start with the edges folded over like so. If I'm sewing all the way around a quilt, then I would overlap the ends and sew them together. That's a completely different technique. That's for another surgery. So I'm going to line these up together, and then whatever distance from the crease mark to here I have, I'm going to stop just before the end here. So that's just under 1/2 inch, so I need that bit to be just under 1/2 inch. So I'll have like a square unsewn in the corner. You don't have to mark this every time you do it, but that just gives you an idea. So that's the edge of my fabric. So I'm going to sew up to that line, stop, reverse my stitches back a couple, and then take my work out. So don't just carry on sewing just all around the corner. So line up the edges again, just sewing in the crease, coming up to that corner, stop, go back, cut off, take your work out. So you can say I've stopped here. Then I'm going to fold the edge of the bias binding around the edge, around the corner of the fabric, until I've got a nice sharp right angle in the corner there, and I've got like a little triangle, like a flag shape. And then carry on sewing from the end of the crease line down. Oops. Like so. And then when we turn this over, can I have a look at this? So that's how we're looking. I've sewn over the edge of the corner, and then when you open it up and flick it over, you will have a perfectly mitered corner. Doesn't that look fabulous? And then I love them. And then on the other side, now there's no harm in trimming some of this back again. You know what it's like with the quilt sandwich. You've got the wadding in the centre tends to grow a little bit as you're sewing. So I would fold this over until it just covers my stitch line. And then when you come into the corner here, make the mitre. So you'll have it looking exactly the same on both sides. Then on this side, I hand stitch with a slip stitch. I always do that. I find it quite calming and relaxing to sit for hours doing that by hand, and I find it really rewarding. Use the same colour thread as your binding, not as your backing fabric, to make it as invisible as you can. So I've had a question from Kerry. Hi, Kerry. And she said, she's totally new to patchwork and quilting. She's got fat quarters that she needs to cut into 5-inch squares. Okay. Now she wants to know the best table mat grid and ruler to get started. You've got choices here. As far as the cutting mat is concerned, go for as big as you possibly can. So we do have the large in the show, which is 34 inches by 22 inches. It's got centimetres on the other side, but if you're patchworking, you're probably going to be working in inches. So it's nice to have the choice of both. We have smaller for you. Have a look on the website. We've got A3 size. We have the Sloth A3 size as well. So it depends on your budget and it depends on how much room you have to store. But the bigger the better. This is fine. There are A4s available as well. I wouldn't, honestly. We've got the rotating one for cutting out smaller patchwork pieces. That is excellent. But if you can stretch to a big mat, if you've got somewhere to store it that's not on its end so it doesn't bow, would be absolutely perfect. You can use this is the ruler that I'd use most of all. I don't have this brand, to be honest, because you'll have seen me using an Alpha one. But it's the same thing, 24 inches by 6 inches or 6.5 inches on this one. So if I wanted to cut a 5-inch square, I don't know if I've quite got 5 inches on that one. So you've got your fat quarters. This is a bit bigger than a fat quarter, but same thing. Iron your fabric first of all. You don't want any creases in it when you're cutting, so don't look at this. And then you can fold into, try 6 pieces. Try 4 to start with. Try 1 to start with if you like. And then the easiest way to do it, you can buy smaller square rulers as well. So this is where I'm saying you've got lots of choice. We've got 12-inch rulers, we've got 8.5-inch rulers. It doesn't matter as long as it's bigger than 5 inches. So those are the square ones that we have. Have a look on the website. The thing with this one is you're going to use it for more than just making squares and squaring things up. This will go, if you've got your big cutting mat as well, and you're buying fabric which has come off a bolt, which is normally 44 inches wide, and it'll be folded in half, or with your fat quarters, there'll be 22 inches on the longest side. This will go across the top of it with some to spare, so you can cut the whole of the length without folding. But then what you're going to do is to, first of all, straighten up your fabric. So chop off the selvages. The selvages are going to be down this side. As it comes off the roll when the fabric's dyed and printed, your selvages are either side in this direction. So if you line up the selvage with the line on your cutting mat, you know that you've got a straight line and your grain is straight. If you've got fat quarters, they should have been cut like that anyway. But let's just trim this back to make sure that it is actually straight and square. If you have a fold on your fabric like this one here, make sure the fold is actually on the line. If you start cutting 2 pieces of fabric and it's not on the line, then they can be a little bit skew-if. So you can either use the cutting mat or the ruler now. I'm going to use the cutting mat because that's the way round I am. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. That takes me to here. Now, I'm lining up not just the ruler on the line here, but going across as well, because I can't see the other end of my 5 inches. That's going to be here somewhere, and I don't want it to be out, particularly if you're using this for patchwork. It needs to be 100% accurate. So I'm lining up the fold on the bottom of the fabric with one of the grid lines. I'm lining up all of the lines on the ruler to the mat, and then I'm confident in cutting. And then I'll simply turn this around. I can trim the very end off there because there is a fold on it, which I don't want. And another way you can do it is to use your 5-inch mark on your ruler, which is here, and cut that way. And the way to check, you've got your perfect 5-inch squares. If you fold them in half, the sides should match up perfectly. So I hope that's helped. I love an impromptu question. Lost my list now. Where have we got to? Yep, we've done that. We mited the corners, lovely. Jean says, what is a scant 1/4 inch seam? Okay, a scant 1/4 inch seam is probably something that you've heard of, but you don't necessarily use. And I'll show you on these 2 pieces of fabric I've just cut. Basically, I just sew a seam. Well, I'm just sewing a straight line, not exactly a seam. When you're sewing, your stitch has a width, and it's the width of your thread, which is barely anything at all. It can be measured, and if you look at that, it's hardly anything. But a scant seam, you're going to sew just inside the width of the seam. Now, if you're I would say if you're quilting for competitions and you want your seam allowances to be absolutely 1/4 inch, sew on the scant. So you'll have your your 1/4 of an inch foot on your sewing machine. You may have an adjustable needle on your sewing machine that goes from side to side. You may have a scant setting on your sewing machine, but just nudge it over a touch. And they say that if you sew on the 1/4 of an inch all the way across your quilt for every single piece, you can lose up to 1/8 of an inch in a whole quilt. Now, to me, I could lose 1/8 of an inch in a block. It's, you know, that wouldn't matter to me. But if you really want to be exact, you can actually count the minute measurements from your seam, from your stitch line. It also that means when you're pressing, if I press that open now, I have actually lost a little bit of fabric there because one of them's folded. So again, that isn't going to be exactly, it's minuscule, it really doesn't matter to me, but you are going to lose a minuscule amount of fabric because of the amount it takes to go around the thread when it's on the fold as well. So to be honest, for me, it's not something, if I see a scant seam allowance, I know what it is, but it's not something I pay too much attention to. Maybe I'm just not picky enough, but I hope that's explained what it is anyway. Scant is the distance of the width of your stitch. Dawn says, oh, a cushion tutorial, yes. I was on my second, I've got so many, we are going to run out of time again, aren't we? The cushion tutorial that she was mentioning was actually one that my daughter made, and it is folded fabric and with patchwork corners onto it. It's really pretty, and that was on her YouTube channel. So if you take a look at Kimberly Sews, you should find it on there as well. Scant says, daughter's cushion, talk about, oh, and what is the best sewing machine, says Angie, who's a new sewer. Do you know, I get asked this question an awful lot, and the only thing I'm going to say is to buy, because I can't say you go out and buy you buy this sewing machine because this is the best one for you, because it might not be. That's your personal choice. But I would say go for a big brand name. So I personally would go for Elna because that's the machine that I use at home. Funnily enough, that's the majority of the machines that we have here on Sewing Street. This is an Elna, which is a lovely little machine. But it's your choice. I'd go for Janome, Elna, Brother, Toyota, Husqvarna, Viking, Pfaff. Big names, Juki, the big names. The reason being, they've all been in business for such a long time, you're going to help and support. There will be somebody to go to if you need any technical advice, if it needs servicing, if something goes wrong with it, and you're going to have a warranty as well. So big brand names to me give you a peace of mind. So although you can see some very affordable non-branded machines in supermarkets and fabric stores and online and things like that, I wouldn't be tempted. I'd go for the big brand. I would do if I was recommending a washing machine or a dishwasher or a cooker. I'd go for a name that I know, because then I know that I've got help and support. And I'd go for a big shop as well with a reputation. Then it depends what kind of thing you're going to sew. So are you ambitious? Do you want to be the dressmaker, the quilter? Are you going to be making curtains? Is it homewares? Is it craft items? Or do you just want to do a few home repairs? If you're not ambitious at all, you just want to sew the occasional seam up when you catch your heel in your hem, this machine's wasted on you. Go for a mechanical machine. Go for something under £100. You're not going to tax it. You're not going to be sewing through heavy weights of fabric, so there's no need to spend any more money than that. If you just put in labels in school clothes, you don't need to spend a lot of money. But if you want to sew through substantial amounts of fabric, if you think that your sewing journey may change from making small items, maybe makeup bags and pouches and pouches, all the way through to dressmaking, quilting, curtain making, you want a machine that's a little bit more substantial. Even as a beginner, I would recommend going for a computerised sewing machine because they're easy. You'll have the needle stopping in the correct position, which disengages the tension, so the thread's easy to pull out. You'll find you've got more stitches on a computerised machine, and each stitch, when you choose it, will automatically set a default stitch length, stitch width and stitch tension. You don't get that on mechanical sewing machines. So big brand name. If you can stretch to it, because they tend to be more expensive, go for a computerised sewing machine. They're so much easier, and there's so much more features on a computerised sewing machine. So again, I'm kind of recommending the 560. It's got 100 stitches on this one. It's got an automatic thread cutter. Comes with some free fabric as well, and it's really, really simple to use. You don't need to use a foot pedal on it because it's got a speed control. So even though this is one of the lowest price point sewing machines that we bring you, it is absolutely feature-packed. So as a beginner, this kind of level would be great. If you're terribly ambitious and you think, no, I want more than that, I'm starting to learn right now, but within a couple of months I intend to be making quilts and dresses and everything, you may grow out of this machine. If you're going to dedicate yourself to sewing, you may grow out of this quite quickly, in which case look for something like the 720 or the 780 that we've got coming up in the next show. You're talking a lot more money, but you're talking about longer investment and more features on there as well. You can see how difficult it is to recommend a sewing machine to somebody when you don't know them, isn't it? But that's what I would say about new sewing machines. Most important thing, the big brands. How to use a rolled hem foot. A rolled hem foot doesn't come with the 560. It does come with the 780, so I've taken the foot off the 780 and I'm going to use it here. Because it's all Elna, so they all go. So I just need to cut a piece of fabric to show you that. I thought I had some. So a rolled hem is normally used on very fine fabrics. Silk, satin, chiffon, georgette, bridesmaids' dresses, veils, where you don't want to see the hem. So it makes a very tiny hem. But it can be very difficult to do because I want a hem that is about 1/8 of an inch, folded over twice, sewn close to the edge, really neat. You can do it on cotton as well, not on heavier weights of fabric. You're going to find the easiest way to get started is to do it yourself. Just at the beginning, just chop that selvage off, just to get it going. I'm going to take that foot out and I'll show you that while we're there as well. So your rolled hem foot has a curl on the end of it. And basically your fabric goes through the tube, rolls over twice. So you can see that's the bit that is coming through there. Rolls over twice and then you sew. But it can be quite difficult to get the end or the edge of your fabric to get started. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to, because I've got covered in glue. You just joined us, I'm not mucky. I've got glue on my fingers and it's gone black. So I'm going to fold that over twice, as small as I can. Over you go. I wouldn't do the whole thing like this, take ages. And then just sew a few stitches and stop. Then I'll take that foot off and put the rolled hem foot on. And then just overlap the stitches a little bit where you came from. And I'm going to ease the edge of the fabric underneath the roll. So I'm not folding it. There we go, it's got it. So the machine or the foot is actually folding the hem into a roll. So take your time with it. You can get different sizes with these as well. There we go. So you can do wider rolled hems than this one. But you can see how quick this is. And I'm not folding at all. I'm guiding the end of it with my finger, under it goes. So I've got that. There is no way I would be able to create a hem like that without using a rolled hem foot. So again, it's not available with the 560. It does come with the 780. I'm doing in the next day. I think the 720's got one as well. So I hope that explains that. Do you know, we need a whole morning for surgery, don't we? I've still got loads of questions to answer. I did say that we'd have a chat about tensions, which is, I just want to be really quick. But it's another one of those things that people say, oh, my thread's breaking, there must be something wrong with the tension. I'm getting nesting underneath my fabric, must be something wrong with the tension. I'm getting skipped stitches, must be something wrong with the tension. Poor tension. It's not tension's fault. Well, 99% of the case, it isn't actually the tension on your sewing machine that's the problem. So basically, you have your top thread and your bottom thread, and the ideal situation is that with 2 layers of fabric, they meet in the middle. So you see the same stitch line on the top as you do on the bottom. If you increase the tension on the top of your sewing machine, the bottom thread will start to pull through. That's the only difference, really, adjusting the tension is going to make. Unless you're going to be doing something like shirring elastic or gathering, or you've got specialist fabrics where you may want to increase or decrease that. Most of the time, for most of your projects, you're not going to touch that. It'll be factory set and you don't need to. If your thread is pulling, or if it's snapping, you need to check a few things first of all. check the journey that the thread's going on, right from which way is it coming off the bobbin at the top. It needs to come off from the top. Are you using the right size of spool cap for the bobbin? Because if you're using one that's too big, that's going to restrict the flow of the thread going through the machine. It'll pull it tighter and you're going to blame poor old tension. It could be as simple as that. Check that you've got no notches on the edge of your bobbin that the thread can catch onto while it's going there. That's going to pull the thread back. You'll blame the tension. And check that it is in the tensions inside here. Those are like discs that look like pie dishes, and the thread needs to go through the centre of them. And you can check that by putting the foot down on your sewing machine and pulling the thread, and if that, oh, I've come undone. If the thread feels tight to pull, the tensions are engaged. If it flows freely, then you need to rethread it and make sure those tensions are engaged. Check the thread you're using, check your needle. Most of the projects you're using are going to take a universal needle, and you'll need a thread weight of about 40 to 50. If your thread is too thick for the eye of the needle, then that's going to restrict the flow of the thread through the needle. You can see where this is going. It's going to pull the thread and make it tight, and you're going to blame the tension. Same on the opposite extreme. If you've got a very fine thread, if you're using a large-eyed needle with a silk thread, it'll throw out too much because the eye of the needle is acting like part of the tension. So you'll have all of this thread coming out and you'll blame the tension. Skip stitches can be caused by the needle that you're using. Now, we have had a question about needles. I can't remember who it's from, and needle sizes. So again, the most of your work is going to be with the universal needle, and that's absolutely fine. There's a whole section in my book on needle sizes that I can't quite find. There we go. So I'll just show you in here the different measurements. The higher the number on the needle, the bigger the needle is. So, and the numbers actually mean that the 10 is imperial and the 70 is metric. So that means that we're covering both sides of the Atlantic. Your most popular needle sizes are going to be your 1280 and your 1490, and that's for cottons, for linings. If you're quilting, if you're dressmaking, most of your fabrics are going to be suitable for the 12 and the 14 sizes. But if you're using a very heavy needle with lighter weight of thread, that's when you're going to start getting skip stitches, and your stitches can snap as well. So there's all kinds of manner of things that that can affect your stitches that don't include the tension. So if you're sewing very heavy fabric like denim canvas, heavy faux leather, you can go right up to a 120 needle size, or use a denim needle, which can come in different sizes, but that's a stronger needle as well. So there's a lot to take in with all of the different types of needles. So the best thing to do, I think, would be to have a look at one of these charts. Identify the fabric that you're going to use. If you're using satin, for instance, use an 1175, and buy your needles accordingly, and your thread. For instance, if you're using a top stitch thread, I'm talking ever so quickly, I'm sorry, I know we're running out of time. If you're using a top stitch thread, that's a thick thread that's used to decorate around the tops of, I don't know, collars, cuffs, bag flaps and things like that. But because it's a thick thread, you're going to need a top stitch needle, which has a bigger eye, which allows the flow of the thread to go through the needle. There are all of these things that affect tension, or what you think is tension on your sewing machine. So I hope that's explained a little bit about that. Poor old tension gets the blame for everything. Oh, we've had some English paper piecing questions as well, haven't we? Where are those ones? Gosia? Oh, lovely name. I've always done English paper piecing, but I've only ever thread basted. Oh, bet that takes you a long time, doesn't it? Right, we have some pieces here. We have some glues. And we do have a look on the website for these now, we do have some hexagon-shaped strips of fabric for you as well. I shan't cut into those because that's a shame. But have a look at the Brights one while I'm just getting this out to show you. There you go. They're fun colours, aren't they? You could make a rainbow placemat out of those. All right, let me show you with a little bit of red. Look at that, disco fabrics. You know, I said in the last hour I put things down and can't find them again. No idea where the scissors are. So I'm going to use these left-handed ones. That's going to hurt. Oh, just taken some out, haven't I? Silly. Right, so I've got 1-inch hexagons, so I need to cut my fabric around about 1/4 of an inch bigger. That doesn't have to be exact. And I know I'm using canvas, but why not? Now, if you're thread basting, or tacking, as we call it over here, there's a couple of ways of doing it. You'll take your paper piece and place it in the centre, and then you'll fold over the edge, and you can either sew all the way through the card and out of the other side to hold that in place, or you can just catch over the corners here, so you don't need to take the stitches out afterwards. But you need to wrap every one of these sides over. No need to cut your thread in between each piece, but that needs to be secured down before you start sewing the pieces together. Or you can glue them. So what I like to do is to put a blob of glue onto my paper, then flip it over, and that's going to hold it in place while I glue. You'll find if you glue onto the fabric, it delivers more glue, which I like. And then fold over and stick. I put a little bit in the corner as I'm going around, and you can see how much quicker this is than using thread and tacking stitches. Use the right glue for the job, because if you're using a paper glue stick, you'll find that when you try and take the paper pieces out, which you'll need to, they'll tear, and you'll find bits of paper stuck to your fabric, and you'll find it difficult to sew through. These glue sticks have been designed for use with fabric. So you'll be able to sew through them easily without them gunking up your needle, and you'll be able to peel the papers out and reuse them again without them tearing. If you do have trouble with them, because they've been in there for quite a while, you may find it difficult to start peeling the fabric back. If you put a warm iron over the back of them, it'll start to melt the glue a little bit, and then you can peel them back easier, so then you can reuse your papers as well. But these aren't just for English paper piecing. I use them for zip insertions. Whoops, just dropped my zip. So if I'm popping a zip into anything, so I was going to put it along that seam there. It's a pin stick, basically. I would remove that. I'm going to put the glue onto the zip so I can see where I'm going. It is blue, but it'll wash out or it dries clear. And then that goes face down over the edge of my fabric before I sew. If you're pinning, I would normally pin that first and then I'd hand tack, because you're not going to be able to sew accurately around pins. So that's one process of pinning, one process of hand tacking, one process of sewing, and one process of removing the tacking stitches afterwards. This is one of gluing, one of sewing. So you're halving the time that it takes to actually put a zip in just by using a glue stick. Price-wise for these, you've got for £5.99 is actually including a refill, which is such a low price. And I can show you just really quickly how that works as well. So when you'll know when you've run out, because there won't be any left. So I know this is full, but I'm just going to twist that around until it comes all the way to the end. Yours will be empty at this point. And you'll just see the end of the white bit when it's empty, and that pulls out. And then you take your next one, take the lid off the end, the glue's inside there still, pop that back over the top, give it a squish, and there's the new one. It's like a magic trick, and then that goes back in again. I'll put the old one back again though, because I can't get away with not using all of that glue. Oh, that reminds me, I bought my granddaughter some Play-Doh yesterday. I hate this stuff and she loves it, so I gave in. It's all over the place. Right, we'll put that glue stick back in there again. So that's how that works. Great for holding a plique as well. So it's not just about your English paper piecing. I think they had these as an early bird last time I was here. And gosh, they sold out within seconds. It was really quite amazing. Stock up on those because you will use them. You're going to find those incredibly useful. Right, who else have we got really quickly? Transfer. Oh, those paper hexagons, by the way, we do have those available. If you wanted to take a look. We've also got some English paper piecing cards somewhere as well. I think you're going to have a look on the website. Look at the mess I'm making here. Oh, I'll tell you what else we've got. Oh, I don't know if we've got time to take you through all of these. Going back to the wadding stroke batting issues. One of the questions we had, again, was about joining pieces of batting together or wadding together. We do have some tape that does exactly that, which is right next to me somewhere. How bizarre. Normally the way that you do it, without said appropriate tape, would be to cut the wadding in a straight line, butt the two ends together and do a zigzag stitch over the top. So in that case you can use quite small pieces of wadding.
The packet's there, the blue packet bit, but I don't know where the actual tape there.
You'll get that in the packet. How do I do this? How bizarre is that? Basically, it's tape that you iron on. So you can join the two pieces of batting together, put the tape over the top, iron it. Is that weird? Can you see it at home? I just saw it and thought, oh, I must tell you about that. And it seems to have evaporated somehow. Oh, weird. So yeah, we do have tape available on the website, and it's called Heat Press Batting Together, Quilters Fuse Batting Pieces. How silly is this? Okay, one way of straightening a cutting mat, says Jackie, is to store it under a rug or mattress. That works for her. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I haven't got to the end of all of those questions. There were so many of them, but I hope I've demystified tensions for you somewhat and answered the majority of the questions that came through. Next one will be on the first Sunday of June, but I'll see you again in a minute.
Hi, I'm John Cole Morgan, and I'm here to give you my top tips on how I go about enjoying my sewing experience. My first top tip, as everybody knows, rotary cutter safety. If you're not using it and it's not on the mat, that blade must be locked. Please be safe. My second top tip is always buy more fabric than you need. If you don't have it, it's always going to sell out. You're going to struggle to find it, and when you do, it's going to cost you a lot more than when you were going to buy it originally. So buy it all. You always regret the bit you didn't buy. My next tip is, positive or negative, always listen to the advice and opinions of other people. Even if you ignore them, everybody has a different perspective, everybody has a different take on things, and it might help you along the way. The next top tip I have is always buy the most expensive and the most useful and the most practical for your brain product that works for you. Some people prefer different things. Buy what works for you. And my last tip is, this is fun, this is enjoyable, and make sure you are enjoying it. Because there's nothing worse than carrying on with something and hating it and not enjoying it. You need to make sure that you're having fun. Those are my top tips and how it is that I enjoy my sewing experience. I hope they help you, because they have helped me. For more handy tips and demonstrations, make sure you watch us on our Freeview channel 74, Sky channel of 670, otherwise follow us on YouTube on Sewing Street, where you can catch up on past demonstrations and shows. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hello there, I'm Debbie Shaw, and I would love you to join me on the first Monday of every single month for Sewing Street Surgery. Now, this is a dedicated hour where I answer your questions, and that could be questions about techniques, it could be questions about tools, it could be questions about new products, or maybe something that you've seen that you just don't understand. There's a lot of questions about tensions on sewing machines, and there's a lot of questions about working with different weights of fabrics. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask me, the easiest way way to bring a question over to us is to go to our Facebook page and post your question on there. I will collate all of those questions throughout the week. If we need any new products for you, or if we need any new demonstrations, those will all be worked on leading up to that first Monday of the month. So do join me, Debbie Shaw, on Sewing Street Surgery on the first Monday. Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw from Sewing Street, and these are my 5 top tips for successful sewing. So, number 1, always use a good quality thread. A good quality thread will keep your seams stronger and also help to prevent lint building up inside your sewing machine. Tip number 2, if your project isn't going quite according to plan, put it down, walk away from it, come back again the next day, and you'll probably find that things don't seem half as bad as they did. My tip number 3, never throw away your sewing machine manual, always keep it to hand, because you're going to find hints and tips, techniques and troubleshooting in that manual. You'll miss it if you lose it. My tip number 4 is to read your pattern instructions before you even cut out your fabric. Different manufacturers of patterns will give you different instructions, different ways of constructing your garments and different seam allowances. So to have a successful garment, you need to follow the instructions precisely. And then tip number 5 is don't give up. Every professional sewer sewed their first seam. Every professional quilter quilted their first quilt. Every professional quilter sewed their first line of wonky stitches and had to get out the quick unpick. That's no different to you. So I hope you find these useful. If you want more hints and tips, then why not go to Sewing Street on channel 74 on Freeview, on Sky 670, and of course we have a YouTube channel where you can catch up on previous demonstrations. We'll see you soon.
Shopping with us couldn't be easier. If you want to shop online, then you can head to our website, www.sewingstreet.com. It will redirect you to our sister channel Jewellery Makers landing page. Don't worry, you haven't gone to the wrong place. We're simply using their website temporarily while we're building our own web shop. Scroll down past the Watch Live part and you'll see all of the products that you will have seen on air on today's live show. You can also shop our catalogue by clicking a category, clicking a product to view closer and adding it to your basket. Once you're ready to check out, you will need to create an account, which is absolutely free to do so, but it will mean that you can check out on as many orders as you want throughout the day with still only paying 1 postage and packaging. If you'd prefer to speak to somebody in our UK-based customer service team, then you can do so via the free telephone line number 0800 001 4433. They will not only help you create an account, but will also help you with any of your online shopping.
Hi there and welcome back again to Sewing Street, and this hour we're going to be looking at a really rather amazing sewing machine. It's the 780 Plus, and this is a machine by Elna, which is exclusive to us here at Sewing Street. It's a really solid sewing machine. Let me just give you a quick look there. It's so heavy I can't lift it up, and that is a really good thing for me because it means it's solid and it's stable. It will withstand an awful lot of punishment, whether you're quilting, if I'm bag making or sewing through heavy weights of denim and canvas and cords and things like that. And you've got a really nice big throat here, so this is a perfect machine for quilters. There are so many features on this. there's nowhere near the amount of time to take you through all of these in 1 hour. So we'll have a bit of fun. If you've got any questions about it, if you bought the machine already, then do come through and let me know. So go to Facebook, which is Sewing Street TV on the Facebook page, and go to Visitor Post. I've got that open now, so if you do have any questions or need to see anything particular about the machine, then come and let me know. But I won't show you what you're getting with it, because in here, these will all be in a separate little bag when you first get it home, but you've got a really nice storage case here. And inside you are going to see things that you would expect. So you've got needles and twin needles and spare things and screwdrivers and bits and bobs like that. And then you've got all of these feet which are included. So there's your over edge foot. This is a 1/4 inch foot with a guide at the side of it. You have a blind hem foot. There's an open-toed satin stitch foot. So this is satin stitches which have lots of stitches going on top of each other, and this has bars underneath it, so it raises the foot away from the stitches and doesn't squish them as you're sewing. And then you've got a closed-toe satin stitch foot, which works in the same way. That's just personal choice, whichever one you would prefer to use. That might be easy to see, wouldn't it? You're getting all of these. And then there's a zipper foot. You'd expect to have one of those. You have a 1/4 inch foot, so that's the same as one with the guide, but without the guide. And then you've got these free motion feet. And instead of using the regular free motion foot that hops across your fabric, these go on in the same way as your button placement foot, just snaps onto the bottom of your take-up lever, or onto the ankle, sorry. And these glide across your fabric, and you've got closed toe and open toes of those to play with. We've also got the dish-shaped free motion foot, so that's got a curve on the bottom, so that's great for fabrics that has a pile on them, but you've also got 1/4 inch markings on here, so if you're echo quilting, that's going to give you precision. You do also have a standard free motion or darning foot, alongside here, and an open-toed version, personal choice. This is another free motion foot, but it's a zigzag one, so it's got a wider opening to it. That's your button placement foot. Then we have a walking foot, a high-speed walking foot. I'll explain that in just a second. There's a free motion foot for ruler work, so if you're using rulers for your quilting, then you don't need to go out and buy the special foot, you're already getting one in the kit. That's a high-speed straight stitch foot. And you have a buttonhole foot, and I think that's all your feet. Then on top of that you have a straight stitch plate and the high performance straight stitch plate. When you put this on, it will ask you to put the appropriate foot, so that was either this one or the walking foot version of it. And this allows you to sew perfectly flat stitches. I was saying in the previous show in surgery about skip stitches or stitches puckering and things like that you automatically blame on tension. This will help to flatten the stitches as they go through your machine. Only use a straight stitch, and in fact when you put the HP plate onto the machine, it recognises it's there and it will grey out any stitches that you can't use. So you cannot use decorative stitches with this. The reason being, it's got one hole in it. That's what helps to keep your stitches flat. If you do a decorative stitch, or if you could do, you're going to hit the side of the plate and you'll break a needle. The foot has one gap in it. Same with the walking foot. So that helps with sewing at speed, it helps to keep your stitches flat, but it also helps with when you're starting to sew right on the edge of a piece of fabric. Sometimes the fabric can disappear inside the feed dogs. If you're sewing very fine fabrics, chiffons, voiles and things like that, sometimes the needle, if it's not fine enough, can push your fabric inside the feed dogs again. It gets kind of wrapped up in your thread and pulled down a little bit. This helps to prevent it, so you get perfect stitching every single time. If you want any of these feet demonstrated, just let me know. Happy to accommodate. You're also getting, there's a quick unpick in there. Remember, we've got the new stitch remover as well, so have a look on the website for that. And let's take a look around the machine itself. It's exciting opening a box like that, isn't it? You get all these bits and bobs in there. Remember, if you've got any questions, come through on Facebook. I'm here and I'm live now, just waiting for your call. So that's the machine. How pretty is that? And you've got a touch screen on the front here, which is really, really simple to use as well. You don't need to use a foot pedal with the machine. So I'm not going to do that because I'm actually sitting down and I can't reach it. But there is a nice big foot pedal. So your foot's not going to slip off it. So let's put that over there. Oh, I've just dropped my stylus. There we go. That's only so you don't get fingerprints all over the screen. So let me lift up this and show you what's going on inside, because these are your stitches. Now, there is an instruction booklet, of course, that comes with the machine, which is really comprehensive and very easy to understand. It's a really thick book. But these are all of the different sections that you'll choose from. And the machine can kind of help you out with the stitches as well. Normally you'll see A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3 for the chapters, but this one explains these are utility stitches. Those are the stitches that you're going to use most of all. These are all of your different types of buttonhole stitches. There's mending stitches on here as well that you'll use with the buttonhole foot, so you can mend splits in knees of trousers and things like that. This is quite a nice stitch if you're hand stitching a buttonhole, because that's your reinforcing stitch. It just literally stitches around a square. Different shapes of eyelets. This one's a basting stitch. Now in America they call that a tacking stitch. Basting, tacking, same thing normally, but we're calling that basting. That goes on the end of maybe a V-neck sweater, right in the V, if you're sewing a pocket into a pair of jeans. If you want to strengthen something, you could use a bar tack for that, which is just a very close zigzag stitch, but that's quite nice having the arrow shape because it makes a nice little design feature. Over here you have applique stitches. So if you're quite new to, not necessarily sewing, but different techniques of sewing, and you think, I don't know which stitch to use for applique, just go to this section and you'll find that you can use any of these. I like the ones that give, I think they're called pin stitches, like very small blanket stitches, but if you wanted something a little bit more decorative, you could go for any of those. Even the blind hem stitch you can use for applique as well. Heirloom stitches for quilting, for drawn work. These make very nice smocking stitches. That could be an over-edge stitch for heavyweight fabric. Drawn work means with a ladder stitch like this, if you've got a loose weave fabric like linen, you can pull the threads out and it gives you a really nice lacy kind of finish. And again, these are all decorative or smocking stitches. These can be used to join two pieces of fabric together, so that's called a faggoting stitch, as is this one. And you can use some of the cross stitches as well. And then quilting stitches. So you may see some of these overlapping because they're suitable for more than one thing. Any of the stitches that have the grey, you can mirror image them in 4 directions. I'll show you that later on. So these are decorative, more of the faggoting stitches, joining stitches, stitching the ditch stitches, embroidery styles of stitches. The satin stitches are these. I was saying earlier on about the satin stitch foot. So you can see this, the zigzag goes over and over loads of times. Bridge stitches are basically straight stitches. This one is for that needle plate, the high speed needle plate. And again, these are the only stitches that you're going to be able to use. So the machine isn't going to damage itself. You've got a straight stitch plate as well. The alphabet in 4 fonts, there's numbers on there too. Stitches to play with. You can join all these together as well as a memory. But the handmade word is actually a stitch. So when you choose number 10, it will stitch out the whole word. And then we've got little decorative stitches, fun stitches, pictographs. These are quite nice as well. There's lots of stitches on here I've not seen before, like the umbrella and the sunshine. But I've not seen these on any of the machines. They may be there, but I haven't seen them. So washing instructions and ironing and tumble drying instructions, which is nice if you're making your own quilt labels, maybe you're selling or gifting items, even in clothing. Nice to put your washing instructions on there. These are just larger embroidery stitches, they're longer, and these are all of the decorative stitches. There's lots of them. So we've got hundreds of stitches there in total. If you take a look at the screen, when you first switch the machine on, it'll go to your utility stitches as you would expect. You'll find that on any sewing machine. But I think an interesting thing to do when you first get the machine home is to have a dive in here, read through your instructions again, and just take a look at all of the different sections. You'll notice I've got a yellow screen on mine. I did set that previously because it was easy for you to see at home, basically. It'll beep when you touch it, but you don't need a beep. I can mute that or turn the sound up or down. I can either be in inches or in millimetres. I'm an inches kind of girl, so I can set this. I've got 4 pages of settings. We can calibrate the touch screen. If you're using a USB stick with the machine, then it will need formatting. Use one with a small memory because you can store some of the stitches in the memory, the stitches that you've put together, you can store on a USB stick. So if you're going to do that a lot and you run out of space on the machine, then you can store on an external USB stick. And the machine does come with some software so you can design your own stitches as well, in which case you'll need a USB stick to transfer them back onto your machine. As we go through again, you've got an upper thread sensor, so the machine will alert you when you're about to run out of thread. Sewing light, yes, we've got the sewing light, and it has got a quiet mode. That's off because I want to hear it. This is where I change the background colour, so I'm on yellow at the moment. I could make it a purpley pinky colour, or that's the standard colour. Let's stay on the yellow because you can see that. It's got an automatic time off, so if you've been sewing all day and you go to bed and you lie there thinking, did I switch the machine off? Don't worry about rushing downstairs. You can set the amount of time it takes to turn the machine off. I would probably turn mine off after a couple of hours. And screen contrast, well, we've been through that one, haven't we? So I'm happy with the settings there, so I'm just going to press OK, and all of those settings have now been memorised into the machine. So these are the main stitches. You've got all of these different chapters you can go through at the top here. I can choose whether I'm going to start with the needle up in the needle down position if I want to do some tween needle sewing and things like that. With the utility stitches section, I've got 2 pages. And these are exactly the same as the chapters at the top of the machine that I've just taken you through. You can adjust these as well. So if we scroll this bar up, you can see that I can adjust the width. Not on that one, it's blanked out. I can adjust the width, that was the length. I can adjust the tension, it's on automatic at the moment, set to 3, and the presser foot pressure is set to automatic as well. That's fine for me. If I change my mind and I can't remember what the default setting is, you have a DFT button there and everything will go back to normal. So let's take that back down again and let's take a look at the second chapter here. Now, again, going through all of the different sections that were at the top of the machine. So I've got applique, the heirloom, the quilt stitching, satin stitching, bridge stitching, decorative stitches, and the long stitches, pictograph, and the ones that you can play with. Let's take a look at the long, because we haven't done that yet. So that's the first stitch. Again, just click on these. I've got 2 different pages. Because I can memorise these as well, I can put a lock stitch at the end of the sequence. I can put a space in between those, and you can mix these with the alphabets too. So you could write tulip and then have little pictures of tulips there. I'm being advised as to which foot to use with it, and again, if I wanted to, I can override the stitch length and width. Let me go back again to play. No, we won't. We'll go back again to the pictorial. So I'm just playing now. Oh, I've come off it, haven't I? Pictograph. Because you can really play with some of the stitches. I thought this. Oh, let's do the cats. I thought this was quite funny. So there's the stitches as they're going to stitch out. But now I can make them shorter. So can you see them shrinking? So they're rather squat cats now, and I can make them slightly skinny if I wanted to. Let's go back up again and see what happens. Long, thin cats. But that's a way, if you're maybe embroidering onto a border or a piece of ribbon that you need it to be exact, these are the actual millimetres in size. So each one of those cats is 8.7 mil tall, so it's almost a centimetre, and it's 1.5 in that direction. So if you do need to be precise, then you can do. Now I can save that, so FS is file save. I can delete it if I don't want it, or I can actually put that into a file and save it, so I can go back to it later. If I want to have a look at what's in those files, so let's take that back down again. And these are the files that are already there. And I've got one in there which says Debbie. I can also store onto my USB stick, remember, in the same way. You can mirror image, and this one in 4 directions. So we've got cats sitting facing that way, they can face that way, they can go to the left, they can go to the right. So you can have a play with those and really personalise everything. So if you memorise them, actually, so let's go into the memory. Whoops, sorry, let me go back again. I'm blaming the light shining on my screen from here. Well, that's what I'm saying. If I want to mirror image the next stitch, I do that before I do the stitch. So I can press mirror image and then put the next cat in, and back again, and back again. I can mirror image in the opposite direction. Whoops. So the little tail's going in opposite direction. So again, you can have a play with those. If I click on the bottom of that strip there, it'll show me exactly what's going on. So if the stitches that I've chosen are too big for that part of the screen, it'll kind of fill up all the gaps here. But I don't want those, so I'm going to bin them one by one. Let's go into tapered stitches. Now with the tapered stitch, you can see the end of the stitch goes in like so. So if I choose one which is a little bit more defined, like, well, let's do that one. You can really see the point there, but I can alter that. So let's open this up and let's take a look at this page. So this angle at the top, I can choose whether I want it to be 30, 60, 90 degrees, 45 degrees. If you choose a 45 degrees, then you can put these together to make a frame. But that changes the top of it. The 45 degrees at the bottom here will change the bottom of it. What you can also do is to have an exact measurement of this if you are making a frame. So if I go onto the keypad here, I can put inside, I want 8mm. So 8, okay. That will now measure 8mm when I sew it out, and every subsequent stitch is going to measure 8mm all the same way. If you don't use this, then I can, the first time you do the stitch, the machine will actually ask you if you want to keep that the same. And actually, while we're doing that, I'm just going to switch the machine off and on again while you're there. Because normally, this will default back to the straight stitch. Like that. I'm sorry I'm laughing, my chair's gradually going down as I'm sitting on it. I thought, you know, it's going to be easy to sit down here for a whole hour. My back's playing up a bit, to be honest. So as I've been sitting here without you noticing, I've gradually been sinking down to the floor. So I thought I'd better come back and show you what's going on, because next time you come to me, my nose will be on the desk and I'll be reaching up to the machine like this. Oh dear, if I'd have chosen that stitch, the machine would have asked me if I wanted to go back to that one. So there's an awful lot of talking going around this, but there are so many features to the machine, and this is really important, because if you're quite new to sewing, or you're tempted, you're going to look at that price and think, why on earth, when I can buy a machine for £560, am I going to be spending £2,000? This is why. This is because of all of the intuitive information that's in here, all of the features that are in here. This is such a comprehensive sewing machine. As I said right at the beginning, an hour is nowhere near long enough time. Now, when you get it home, we are going to get a video for you from Jane from Elna, who's going to be talking around in more detail, probably about different things to what I'm talking about now. But I want you to see what an opportunity this machine is going to give you. If you are Certainly if you're quilting, this machine is made for you. Because of that big 11-inch throat, you can really roll your quilts up while you're stippling. And if you are, you've got all of those different feet that you can use there as well. Remember, you're even getting the ruler work foot too, so you don't need to go out and buy anything else if you're using rulers to quilt with. Apart from all of the stitches, being able to tailor make them, to extend them, to shrink them, to flip them, to mirror image them, and then to store them is amazing. Now, it does come with software, I should be quite honest with you. It's still sitting in the drawer on my PC because I haven't had a chance to actually use it. But years ago, I brought, it was a Brother sewing machine actually, which was so impressive because you could design your own stitches. And other makes do them as well, or did them as well. And you were given a sheet of graph paper, and you'd work out where you wanted the needle to go to create the stitch. And it was amazing. So you'd put all of these dots on the graph paper, then go over to the LCD screen on your sewing machine and kind of program in the numbers. With the software that you have here, when you put it onto your PC, it comes up with a virtual graph. So I started designing a rabbit, and that's as far as I've gone. But you can design your own stitch. That could be a big long word. It could be a rabbit. It could be anything that you don't have on here. Maybe something to do with your logo or your work or your favourite sports. I don't see a football on here. Favourite name, I don't know. You can make up stitches to say or have an image of anything that you want to, anything that's personal to you, and then take them from your PC. You'll need your own USB stick. We're not giving you a USB stick, and put it into the side of the machine, and the machine will memorise those as well. So your £2,000 pound under is a huge going forward, growing with you, never having to buy another sewing machine opportunity. And from Elna, and with a 2-year warranty as well. I'm going down again, aren't I? It's very slowly. Thank goodness I'm not just dropping down to the floor. It's a very slow move downwards. But I can feel the machine going higher anyway, so I must be going lower. Okay, let's take a look at. So we've seen tapering. This is the alphabet, and you can see you've got 4 sections there. Apart from anything else, it's a good-looking machine, isn't it? And you've got your start, stop, and scissors and presser foot. Oh, with the presser foot, automatically it can go up when you're finished. You don't have to lift it. It does all but put the kettle on for you. Oh, I could do the coffee. So again, 4 fonts to choose from. Let's just go for a bold one here. If I wanted to, well, you can join the letters together. So I could do another Debbie, D-E, B-B, I, E. Let's go a little bit longer, so let's put a space in there and do S-H-O-R-E. Now I can't remember what I've written, and I'm not sure if there's a spelling mistake in there. So again, click on the end of it and I can see the whole word, so I can double check. Shall I sew something, just so I'm not sitting here just talking endlessly? So I'll just, because you want to hear this, don't you? You want to hear the quality. I could stand up. I've just got a feeling as soon as I stand up again, the chair's going to shock. Up again. we could do. Let's do a competition. Let's time how long it takes me to shrink a foot. I'm guessing about 5 minutes. So my foot's up. I'm not using the foot pedal because now I can't reach it. Let's take that screen away. I've got the right foot on. Let's press start and see what happens. Oh no, it's telling me the bobbin thread may. Oh, it's telling me that the bobbin thread may not be sufficient. I think I've got enough for this because I actually preset the bobbin thread to let me know when there's ½ metre left. So I want to put the foot pedal down all the time. There's no need to. So it'll tell me that with the top thread as well. And now I'm just going to press the stop button. Oh, and it'll stop after. I didn't want it to stop there. Oh, foot goes up. Okay, let's do it again. After, if you press the stop button, which is one that looks like a bullseye, it'll stop after the stitch that it's working on at the moment is completed. And I love that feature because it doesn't stop halfway through a stitch, because that's not something that you want to happen if you're using decorative stitches, certainly. So let's just carry on. I mean, you may want to stop at a certain point, and then just carry on if you're going around the edge of something. No, I haven't pressed stop on that, it stopped automatically. And when I went into the settings previously, I didn't show you that before, but you can set that every time the machine stops, it cuts the thread. You don't have to do that, but you can do. So you can see I've got the gap in the centre there as well. And that's a little jump stitch, I can just cut that away. So that's how you put words together, letters together. You can, of course, put pictures in between all of those as well. I haven't finished with this menu though. Where are we? That's half an hour of not even telling you all of the features of the sewing machine. So it's in little boxes across the top. The final one has I'm not going down yet. I'm still up here for now. The final one has a picture of a t-shirt on it. So let's click on that. And again, we've got different styles of sewing, which are going to be appropriate to, well, mainly dressmaking. So seaming, I'm just making a seam. I can woven fabric, I can seam stretch or knit fabric around curves, and then there's top stitching. Over edge stitches, again, what type of fabric am I stitching? This is all really helpful, not just for anybody that's quite new to these techniques, but you know, if you're not using this stitch every single day, you might not realise that that one is woven and that one's heavy. You forget things, don't you? Let's go back again. And then we've got blind hem tucks and shell tucks and the rolled hem. All of this is on the machine. I haven't programmed anything else in. This is all there right in front of you. Back again. Then we've got zipper feet and gathering stitches. So are you gathering or are you ease stitching? There is a difference. So you can choose the appropriate stitch there. Got more pages. Basting stitches, so that's tacking. So that's going to be a longer stitch, as you can see. And then sewing buttons on. You need to lower the feed dogs to do that one. Have you got a regular button or have you got a button with a shank? If you have a button with a shank, you're going to use a seam lifter. That's going to be in your accessory box. Tacking stitches again. Putting pockets on. Oh no, these are the tacking. When I was saying earlier that in America they call our tacking is basting. So when you saw the basting stitches, which are long stitches, those are removable stitches. So we call, and that's a big long stitch. You can do it by hand, you can do it on your machine. They call it basting. We call basting the stitches that reinforce the ends of pockets. They call that tacking. So when you go into tacking and you think, that's not a tacking stitch, I'll never get that out, it's because it's an American program. And that's the stitch that goes at the top here. A bar tack, we would call it. It's a bar tack at the bottom of the zip. It's a bar tack at the end of a buttonhole. But that's what they call it in the States. So you see, you're even having a lesson in cross-continental conversation. Applique stitches again. You've got 2 of those. Patchwork. So this is for, you can either use a straight stitch, so that's the 1/4 inch seam allowance, or you can use the one with the lock on the end of the stitch, that automatically locks the stitch each end. And then we've got quilting, straight stitch, clasp. Oh, these are pretty. Let me show you one of those. This is a lovely way of quilting. So instead of, got the right foot, so it's just a standard foot. I'm going to put the foot down of them. And I'll just do a quick stitch and then show you. It just stitches out a star shape or a snowflake shape. And then it'll stop and then it'll cut the thread, because that's what I programmed it to do. And then I'll have one tiny little stitch. I've got a bit of a thread sticking up. I'm going down again, aren't I? I'm gonna. So you've got a tiny little stitch, and that's a quilting stitch. So of course you can use that as a decorative stitch if you wanted to. But the idea is that you can quilt, and I think quite randomly would be rather nice, all over your quilt, just using these different stitches. Let me show you another one of those. So let's go for clasp stitch 2. This one looks a little bit more like a snowflake. Again, it'll automatically cut the thread because that's what I've asked it to do. And I'm left with a little snowflake shape. So what a lovely way of quilting. I've tied quilts before now, which I think is a lovely effect. It's just something a little bit different. No, now then, it is, I forgot about the bobbin thread. I've gone right down now, haven't It is telling me that bobbin thread's empty, so let's thread that up again. So I need to unthread the machine to start with. Oh, while you're there, we have a light. And it's actually really clear, it makes a big difference, and you can point that right down at the area that you're working. Shan't leave it on for now because it's going to blind you. So let's thread up this bobbin. So let's go around the edge of here. Oh, going in the other way actually. Around the edge of here, around, it's quite standard, the threading system. Important to go around all of these bits and bobs. They've all got arrows on the top like you would expect, because that helps with the tension. Do you know, you're kidding really, there's enough for another few stitches there. But I would rather the machine told me when I'm running out of thread than just carry on. I've done that so often. With the top loading thread, a bobbin thread, then the idea is that it has a perspex cover so you can see when you're running out of thread. And you never do. Let's just flick that over and press the start button. I might have that a little bit loose. So the number of times I've sewn quite a large project and then run out of thread without realising it, and that's really frustrating. I was doing it the other day, I was actually quilting, I was doing some crosshatch quilting, and I ran out of thread. This is a blade as well, just puts the thread there, look, clever. Ran out of thread halfway through one of the straight lines, and it really spoils it, because you get halfway down the quilt, well, you get all the way down the quilt, then realise that you've run out of thread, and you've got holes where the needle has been punching and nothing's been happening, and you can't match up the line when you carry on sewing, so I end up picking out the whole of the line and starting all over again. So little things, but it is nice to be alerted as to when your thread's running out. So let's snip that off there. And then rethread at the top. So again, follow the diagrams. Quite standard. Nothing to see here. This is what I'm going to, oops, make sure that you get your thread right around there. I'm going to put the foot down. I was saying in the previous area about tensions, that means that I know that the tension's engaged because it feels quite firm. Take the thread over to the left of the needle guide, into the needle holder, around the side and snip, and then the needle threader pops down at the side, pushes a loop of thread through the eye of the needle, and we're done. So we're all ready to go. Let's lift that foot back up again. So I'm sitting really high up again now. We like to entertain. And I've put my stylus down somewhere. I don't know. There we go, right behind the machine. So, you got any questions? Yes, will Sewing Street be doing flexi payment for sewing machines? Yes, we will. It won't be for a few weeks or maybe even a few months because it takes so long to set something like that up. At the moment, we're working on a new website. Obviously, because of the way things are at the moment, things have been way slowed down because we just don't have the staff in the building. At the moment, Sewing Street is part of the Jewellery Maker website. We would ultimately like our own website. That's being worked on. It's just taking ages. So we'll need our own website, and it all involves software and stuff that I don't really understand. So it's going to take a while, longer than we would have liked it to have done. So yes, eventually, don't know when. Sorry, that's a bit vague, isn't it? But that's all we know at the moment. We had a virtual meeting with everybody in the team the other day, and it was really nice actually, because Neil, our MD, wanted to get everyone together virtually and say thank you, which I thought was really nice, but to keep us posted and updated in what's going on. And that was the one question that I asked, was when we're going to have flexible payments, and it's literally, don't know. But they're working on it. So I was going to do another class stitch, wasn't I? Right, so this is another style, it's a diamond shape. So again, we're quilting with this one. And then there's a little circular one which doubles up as an eyelet stitch as well. There we go. So that's just another way of putting your quilts together. I think those are really pretty. Do you know, I think we may have come to the end of the menu. How's that? That's how long it took. Just to mention as well, we have a free arm on the machine. There's, I'll show you in there, the accessory compartment on both sides, front and back. You've got extra storage for bobbins in there as well. And when the free arm comes off, there is a huge accessory table, which I'm not going to get off my seat to go and get, but it's huge. And that's really important if you're free motion embroidering, or if, oh, I'm going to mention tension again, poor old tension. If you're sewing something heavy, maybe it's a pair of curtains or a dress or a quilt or something really big, and you don't have support at the side of your table for it, the weight of the fabric can actually pull against the stitches. And you're going to blame poor old tension again, and it's not tension's fault. Yes, please. There's only two of us in the studio. I get to sit down, and Jo gets to keep fit. Thank you. That's it. It's huge. It does have legs on it, which are adjustable as well. Don't need the legs, Jo, you're right. And there's also a seam guide. The little gap at the back here, because it goes on that way, has like a clear plastic seam guide that is adjustable. It slides up and down there, so you can bump up your fabric to the seam guide and sew in a straight line that way. But just to give you an idea of size, I know it hasn't got its legs on. That goes on there like that. It's too big for the table, which is why we're not using it at the moment, but it's really heavy, and it does give you a nice big area that you can work on as well. It is impressive though, isn't it? It's a fabulous sewing machine. So let's pop that back on again. It comes with a dust cover as well. Thank you. Which is this. I think I've got everything else that it comes with. Which is a really nice quality one. Well, you'd expect it for a machine of this calibre, wouldn't you? You don't want a little bit of plastic. And oh, that's really noisy. Sorry. There's pockets on the front with dividers in as well, so you can store patterns and maybe your foot pedal and things like that when you're not actually using it. So that's that. 2-year warranty from Elna, remember. It does have a foot pedal. It also has a, I was going to show you this, I'm going down again, aren't I? I think I've got the joke chair on purpose. What should we sit her on? Because nobody ever sits down on Sewing Street. She wants to sit down? Right. Actually, Jo was being very kind, because we do have a stool in the studio with no back support. You see, you can have back support. So he was being kind. If I open this up, under here is where we remove the plate, so there's no screws involved. We're simply going to press that down, and your plate pops up. As that's popped up, you can see over here it's saying warning. That's warning, not morning. And this is the high performance foot plate that's going to go on now. And that just clips on like so. And now it's saying straight stitching needle plate is set. Please make sure the proper presser foot is attached. So I'll need to put on the high performance presser foot as well. And this is quite interesting, so we'll do that. I just love how intuitive the machine is, how clever it is, how it knows how it's going to look after itself. It's not going to let you do anything that you know, choose a wrong stitch. There's also, in a similar vein, there's a twin needle setting on it, which will prevent you from using... I showed you a screwdriver, didn't I? When I first opened this box up, the first thing I picked up was a screwdriver. Is it there? Thank you. I need a ladder to get on it now. Look how high I am there. Oh dear. So let's take off the foot pedal at the side. We'll take off the ankle at the side. And we'll put this one back on again. I don't know what I ever did. Right, so I've got the proper foot pedal on. 41 years I've been in the business. Never had this happen before. It's making a joke of me. So now on the screen, which you'll need to see really close up, that will show him. He could refuse. It could just not come out. The machine knows I've got the right foot on there. It knows I've got the high performance plate on there, so now it's not allowing me to choose any other stitches than these. So, I mean, if I try to go into satin stitch, everything's just greyed out, look. So all I can choose, I won't even let me turn pages, and there's 2 pages. These are the only stitches that I'm able to use. And of course, that's what the foot's all about. This is going to give you really high speed, high performance, really straight, flat stitches without puckering. I can't do anything with them. I can maybe just the length. No, can't. Oh, I can do that a little bit. So again, foot, fabric underfoot. And then let's press start and just see how fast this is going to go. Woo! That is so quick! And cut the thread. But speed is what it's all about, but it's all about precision as well. Perfect stitches, both sides there. Now those are quite small stitches because I adjusted them. Let's see if I can go longer. Don't need a close-up. So I can't adjust the length there. I can't adjust needle position, don't need to do that. Can't adjust the width. I just want you to listen to this. I'm trying to put the foot pedal down again. So press start. Now you're sewing there at about 1,250 stitches a minute, which may not make any sense really, but when you consider that an overlocker machine, which is one of the quickest machines on the market, you're probably looking between 11.5 and 13.5 stitches, 1,000 stitches a minute. So a 12.5 is a really, really quick sewing machine. I bought my sewing machine. The first thing that I said when I wanted a machine to the dealer was, I want a fast machine, which is why I've got the Janome 6600, which isn't made anymore, but it's a bit like the 720. Because I do a lot of free motion embroidery, and when you have been sewing for a while, you get quicker as you're sewing. So if I'm making curtains, if I'm dressmaking, I get quite frustrated with smaller sewing machines if I have them at home to test out anything, because they don't keep up with me. You can slow this down, so you have the speed control right on the front of the machine as well. So you don't have to sew at high speed. You can still use that straight stitch foot and the straight stitch plate and sew at a more regular speed, but I like to sew fast. Let's put the normal plate back on again. So pop that one off, clip this one on. It's easy to clean as well. Now you do have a lockout button on the side, so if you're going to do any cleaning, or even it's recommended when you're changing bobbins and things like that, then do make sure that it's switched off. And of course you can lock it out without switching it off if you've got kids in the house and you don't want anything to change. So pop that back on again. Please make sure the proper presser foot is attached, comes up on the screen, because the machine knows. It won't allow you to do something that it doesn't want you to do. So let's do that. Now you can, if you wanted to, use the high performance foot with the regular plate. There is a risk that you might choose the wrong stitch, or if you choose a 1/4 of an inch setting. Remember that high performance foot's only got one gap in it. The needle can only go up and down in one position. So if you've got the plate on, the machine knows and it won't let you do anything else. If you don't have the plate on, you may choose a stitch that's inappropriate. So it's worth doing that, and it will help with keeping your stitches flatter as well. Just keep putting the foot down. And let's have a look at some more of the stitches on here then. I'm going to do the washing instruction ones. So if I go into the little heart shape, and I need pictograph, which is over here, and I've got all of these different images. So let's go on to, these are the washing ones. I like the sewing related ones as well. So we've got needles and there's little mannequins on there as well. Are there scissors on this? Oh, there's a bobbin on this one. Yes, and there's a pair of scissors as well. So let's say I want to wash at a 30-degree wash, please. And I only want one of those actually. Let's not do a whole row. So let's go into the hearts. Here is the memory. I've twisted that bit, haven't I? I don't know if you can still see that. Okay, there you go. So there's the heart section. Now I can start to put all of these different images together. So let's do a bobbin, followed by a pair of scissors, followed by 30-degree wash, and let's leave a gap. No, I don't want to leave a gap. I'm going to do the needle, but mirror image it. Oh, do that before I press it in, don't I? Let's get rid of that. And then do that, and then mirror image. And that wasn't mirror imaged, was it? There. And then we'll do the same with bobbin. And then we'll do a lock stitch. And then let's press start. So we're still going at speed, and we do have the speed control on the front, so we can slow that right down. I'm not using the foot pedal at the moment, so everything's going on here. So if you can't use a foot pedal for any reason, your legs aren't working, if you can't reach the foot pedal, like when my chair was high, I could reach the foot pedal on the floor below now, so low down, then that's going to be ideal for you. Or if you like to stand to sew. So I hate standing to sew. Now remember, I have programmed the lock stitch in, so hopefully before I run out of fabric. And the foot goes up and the thread is cut, and that's what I've sewn. So I don't know if you would want to, but if you wanted to put, I'm thinking more if you're doing quilt labels, or if you're making clothing or anything to sell, because anything that you buy like that will have a washing instruction label in it, won't it? So it gives it a nice professional finish. So you could print these out onto labels and then sew them into the bag or whatever it is that you're making before you sell it. Joe, I think we've gone all around that screen in this hour, which I'm so pleased about, because there really is so much to show you. We've got about 5 minutes left if you wanted to come through and ask any questions, so come through on Facebook, would be a nice way. Now remember, you've got, it's on the Sewing Street Facebook page. We've got two Facebook pages, one's the Sewing Street and one's the Sewing Street fans. So go to Sewing Street, because that's where I am, and go to visitor posts, and leave me a message or any questions that you have on there. Or if you have the machine already, let me know what you think. Because I bet you haven't made anything yet. I bet you're still getting around to using all of the feet. And I think it's important as well to actually stitch out these stitches and see what they look like. I did find with the bobbin and the scissors, they're a lot bigger than I expected them to be. Again, you can make them smaller. You've got all of that in the programme. But these, I'd say I would have stitched that out expecting it to be maybe half of the size, and that might have spoilt my work. So I think when any of the stitches that you're stitching, do stitch them out first of all, just so that you can see what they're going to do. Let's have a look at some of the feet on here. You do get a rolled hem foot as well. I pinched it for the previous hour, and I haven't put it back. It's with the 670. So I shall do that shortly, else I'm going to be in trouble with whoever uses it next. Let's take a look. We've got those, we've got those. Should we do a blind hem? I haven't done that on this machine before. And then maybe 1/4 of an inch. So we can go into the chapters actually, because I know what a blind hem looks like, but maybe you've never done a blind hem before. So I don't normally sew at the eye level with my sewing machine. I'm going to expect this every time I'm sewing now, the chairs that go up and down. So let's go into the t-shirt. So blind hem and shell tuck. So let's go here. I want to do a blind hem. So that's it. Have I got woven or stretch knit fabrics? I've got woven fabric, so this is what I have. So that's easy, isn't it? Then going through and picking numbers and going up and down with a dial like you do on most sewing machines. Now let's put the blind foot hem on here. So this is a snap-on foot, so that one goes off. This is the strangest angle to sew at. And that one goes back on. Let's put the foot down. There we go. Then I will turn it a little bit. After Joe's just run out and set up the machine so that you can see it, is going to have to come back out again in a minute. Now, if this was a hem, I'm going to have the hem a little bit longer. So if you're making maybe a pair of pyjamas or a skirt or trousers, add a little bit extra to the hem, because you're going to find it difficult if you're just rolling up by 1/4 inch. So I'd have maybe a 2-inch hem or 1.5-inch hem on the bottom, and then you're going to fold that and press it to the length that you want. So if that's the outside, should have chosen a colour really, shouldn't I? If that's the outside of your garment, that's where I want the crease to be. But I also want to fold over the edge here. So I've got a double fold. Would you like to see that on some coloured fabric so you can see what I'm doing? Thank you. So that is payback time. If you get me a chair that goes up and down, that's what it is. So my hem's going to go up, and we'll fold that and crease it. There's no need to pin it, so I know I've got that at the right length. And then on the other side, I'm going to fold over the end. So that's my double hem, okay? I'd normally press that. I'm not bothered about pinning it, but I would press it. And then the bit that I'm going to sew on is inside here. I want to sew on that bit there. So I'll need to turn it over when it goes under the machine. Whoops. Remember, that's pressed. And then flip this over. So I'm not exposing the edge of the fabric, that's all nicely tucked in there, but I've just flipped it around, so I've exposed the inside of the seam. Might make more sense when I've actually started sewing. You've got a guide on the machine. So this is where your foot pedal, your extension table would come in really handy. Don't worry, Joe, I wasn't asking for it. Because this fabric is now pulling at the side, so I'm just going to lift that up a little bit. And then when we start to sew, and I'll slow this down a little bit, you'll have a series of straight stitches, and then the needle swings over to the left-hand side to give you a zigzag stitch. Always practice, first of all, on a scrap piece of fabric, of the same fabric that you're using, because you may need to adjust the needle position to get the perfect stitch. So all I'm doing is bumping this fold here up against that little guide. I'll stop there, because that seems to be working okay. And cut the thread. So then that's where I've been sewing. That's the inside of the garment, or the curtain, whatever you're making, and that's what you see on the outside. Now, you'd normally use the same colour thread, so if I'd have used a red thread you wouldn't see that, or you could use a clear thread, or if you have a pattern fabric, a neutral colour, so a pale grey or a beige would be ideal. I can make those stitches longer so they're further apart if necessary, but when that's pressed you shouldn't see any of the stitches from the outside of your garment. So if you're dressmaking, actually if you're wearing anything that's been shop bought now, if you've got trousers or a skirt on, have a look, just turn the hem over and you'll see, not exactly the same because they'll use professional industrial sewing machines for them, but that's the kind of stitch that you're going to see, or hopefully not see. That's the idea, it's an invisible stitch. The 1/4 inch seam, now this is useful as well, not just for quilters, for top stitchers. So put the foot back down again so I can drop that on. Drop on. There we go. So this is the one with the guide on the side. So I'm going to just take a piece of fabric. The stitch will be 1/4 inch from the edge. And I'm just going to go back to a straight stitch. You do have a top stitch option in the menu as well, but I'm just using a straight stitch. I'll lengthen it a little bit, so we'll go up to 5 millimeters. And let's start. And let's go quicker. And again, I'm just using that guide as a guide to the edge of the fabric. So I'm not on a 1/4 of an inch stitch at the moment, but if I'm top stitching maybe around, oh, I squished that a bit, didn't I? If I'm top stitching around maybe a bag flap or a cuff or a collar, I can move the needle over so I get a really precise, it's sewing around a curve particularly, if you've got a bag with a curve on it, a bag flap with a curve on it, to try and get that top stitching in a perfect arc can be really difficult, but when you're using the guide on the 1/4 of an inch foot, it just shows you how versatile it is. You can stitch around there really very easily. Do you know, we are just about out of time for the whole day today. There's more sewing coming up over the next couple of hours from previous shows, so stay with us if you can. You can order after the end of the show. Vicky's going to be with you tomorrow, so she'll be live at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 and 10. I'll see you again next Sunday morning. But do take a look at more details on the website, and remember, you've got a 2-year warranty. I'll see you next week.